Chapter 1243. Mythical Body. Han Dong had met Nkei's stone skull-toad. He had met Black Knight Tyrant Lesoth in Dark City, London, and the Gold Saint in the London game. If they were to be ranked, the Gold Saint would definitely be at the bottom. As for the strength of Father Lesoth and the stone skull-toad, it was difficult for Han Dong to assess who was stronger and who was weaker. Using the above mythical body as a reference, he assessed the Tomb Lord in front of him. In terms of overall condition, the Tomb Lord was worse than the Gold Saint. Its degree of weakness even made Han Dong feel that he could defeat it head-on. However, combined with the overall feeling, the Tomb Lord's true strength should be comparable to Father Lesoth and the Toad, using the body as a runaway converter in exchange for the death aura that covers the entire world. It's no wonder it's so weak. If it was attacked in its current state, it would definitely affect the operation of the entire world. Referring to the date when the corpse transformation order was issued, the Tomb Lord should have maintained this state for more than 100 years. Its perseverance is amazing. Like me, it's the kind of person who must pursue perfection in certain things. Staring at the Tomb Lord's state, Han Dong felt a sense of admiration from the bottom of his heart. The body of the Tomb Lord sitting on the dragon coffin chair was in a critical state of disintegration. The charred outer skin was obviously a side effect of maintaining a high-intensity release of death aura for more than 100 years. The dense black hair on the top of its head had not been trimmed for years, and it was already hanging on the surface of the dragon coffin chair. Its face was full of burn marks, and a pair of reddish-brown eyes were staring at Han Dong. As the throat was also used as the main channel for the release of death aura, the Tomb Lord could only speak through the corpse aura it controlled. However, the voice this time did not sound like that of the king of a country. It did not contain any sense of oppression, and it was just a simple communication. "You have the smell of teacher on you. Have you been to Mount Yueshan?" Han Dong respectfully took out the thing in his arms. It was the connection established by the Black Tower executives for the two of them, a glass bottle filled with white liquid from the executive. "Yes, I met Senior at the peak of the mountain. This thing should be useful to His Majesty." Seeing the white liquid, the Tomb Lord showed a long-lost, surprised expression. "This is Teacher's modeling fluid." As Tomb Lord stared at the white liquid, he couldn't help but recall some of his past experiences. Modeling fluid? Han Dong didn't know what kind of liquid it was, nor did he know what its effects were. He only knew that it came from the field of executives. "That's right, Teacher can use this liquid to create a world. I once drank this liquid on Mount Yueshan, and it helped me recover my incomplete physical body and inner core. This should be a reward from Teacher for climbing the mountain. You don't have to give it to me. Build a world? No wonder I couldn't analyze its composition. However, no matter what, this belongs to someone else. If I use it carelessly, it might affect my brain. Moreover, in order to achieve a true world model, the most important thing is executive's genesis energy. This white liquid should only be used as a model." Han Dong immediately replied, "My real body is not here, so this thing is useless to me. His Majesty supported the world stripping, all by himself, so he must need the support of this liquid. Besides, my reward for climbing the mountain wasn't this. The white liquid was what the Senior asked me to give you. Please accept it." "Alright." The Tomb Lord didn't continue to refuse. In his current state, he really needed this kind of modeling fluid that was above the world and could repair his physical body. The progress of the world stripping was much slower than he expected, and his physical body had begun to disintegrate. For a moment, a wisp of death aura from the Tomb Lord swept the liquid in Han Dong's hand and swallowed it together with the glass bottle into his body. Han Dong observed the whole process with the demon eye. He found that the Tomb Lord's weakness was worse than expected. He just drank it and didn't have the energy to control the flow of the white liquid in his body. "Your Majesty, let me help you absorb it?" "Sorry to trouble you." The Tomb Lord also knew that this way of drinking was inappropriate, but at the same time, he also believed in the young man that teacher recognized and allowed Han Dong to control his body. In this kind of situation, Dempus should be able to do better than me. Han Dong learned from Demp's technique. Through an unpolluted star tentacle, it penetrated the back and adjusted the flow of the white liquid for the Tomb Lord to maximize its value. Sizzle, a rare wisp of white smoke rose from the curtain. The Tomb Lord's almost charred body was slowly being repaired. More than 80% of the charred scars all over his body were filled, and new flesh even grew in some parts. Huff, the Tomb Lord exhaled a mouthful of thick death aura, and a long-lost smile hung on his face. This way, he could continue to hold on, even if it was delayed for more than 10 years. After doing all this, Han Dong returned to the Tomb Lord again. Just as he was about to continue kneeling, his body was immediately grabbed by a wisp of death aura. "You are on the same step as me, there is no need to kneel to me. Those who can climb the Lunar God Mountain are not ordinary people. I dare say that there is no second one in the entire Corpse Nation. You don't belong here, do you?" A world master like the Tomb Lord, in addition to having a relationship with the Black Tower's executives, naturally understood the concept of how far the universe was. "Well, I just came here to do something. After going to the Lunar God Mountain, I have a clear answer on what to do. I will do my best to help Your Majesty achieve your goal. I have learned the general situation of the Corpse Nation from the senior. The most difficult thing at the moment should be the chain, right? I have a friend who happens to have a deep relationship with the chain. You can leave this matter to me." The Tomb Lord's expression changed. In order to separate the world, the chain must be broken. This matter had cost the entire Corpse Nation too much manpower, and countless locksmiths had been used on this matter, but the progress was still getting slower and slower. Even the zombie demons that had been thrown in recently could only stabilize the progress. But the Tomb Lord, who was originally having difficulty moving, forced his hand to land on Han Dong's shoulder. A voice came from above. "If you can solve the chain problem, once the plan succeeds and a new world that belongs to the Corpse Nation is born, I can give you a part of the land. I heard from my teacher that a part of the world is very valuable." The Tomb Lord was not a participant of fate, and was only a local resident, so he did not understand the professional terms like shares and anodes. Such a promise was equivalent to giving away shares. Han Dong held back his maniacal laughter, and maintained a normal expression. He lowered his head and replied, "I will do my best, but I have a request. I can give you resources, troops, or even a position. My request is that you do not have to give me anything, and at the same time hide our relationship. Let me be the secret officer, according to the normal procedure, and give me a pass that allows me to freely enter and exit the chain region. This is because there is a hidden threat in the Corpse Nation, and this threat must be completely removed before the world is separated. Otherwise, when the threat ferments, it may affect the entire plan." Chapter 1244. Threat. As the ruler of a country, the Tomb Lord was naturally aware of many threats lurking in the Corpse Nation. However, as Han Dong said, none of the threats that could affect the overall plan seemed to fit the criteria. "What kind of threat?" "A threat not from this world. Your Majesty doesn't need to send anyone to investigate this matter to avoid alerting the enemy. I've already thrown out a series of baits in advance, and the enemy will surface when the time is right. The key is to not expose our relationship." "How confident are you in this matter?" 80%. The remaining 20% is reserved, because I'm not sure about the strength of the threat itself. However, as long as Your Majesty gives me the domain to suppress it, I should be able to take it down myself. "You plan to solve this matter in the Taiji Palace?" "That's right. The threat has been lurking in the Corpse Nation for a long time, and it must be uprooted once and for all. Without Your Majesty's help, the enemy might escape in my current state as a corpse. As he spoke, Han Dong handed over the letter that he had written long ago. The Tomb Lord examined the relevant information on the letter while gently tapping a silver needle connected to his chest with his finger. Ding! Layers of vibrations traveled along the tube to the bottom of the dragon throne. Soon, a file rose from the secret passage hidden in the dragon throne for the Tomb Lord to read. The relevant information recorded in the file was almost the same as the information given by Han Dong, confirming the so-called threat. "I'll leave this matter to you. If you can do it, it'll be another contribution to the Corpse Nation." Okay. With the experience on Mount Moon Goddess, Han Dong's basic communication with the Tomb Lord was over, and the establishment of a relationship was quite successful. Just as Han Dong took the secret official document and was about to leave, the Tomb Lord suddenly asked about something he had observed. "Your real body didn't come with your head?" Han Dong was shocked. He didn't expect the Tomb Lord to see through this. "That's right. Due to your influence, the current Tomb Lord's connection with the Black Tower has been reduced to 13%. When I transmigrated between planes, I barely brought my head over, and my body was isolated outside. Otherwise, my efficiency would have been higher. However, I've also gained a lot from regenerating the corpses. As expected, the death chi I released was unable to penetrate your head, yet it was able to easily penetrate your body. It's as if the two of them are connected, yet they aren't one. It seems like you've reached your current state step by step through the ordinary corpses of your own country. Also, you seem to be following the model of your country to improve your physical body. Which corpse collection did you choose?" Floating Corpse Internal Sutra, written by Grand Scholar Du Zhijing. This answer actually made the Tomb Lord a little excited. For a moment, he could not hold back and stretched out his arm with difficulty to touch Han Dong's body. "I didn't expect you to be able to choose and cultivate this strange collection of corpses. In that case, I don't need to provide you with other valuable corpse collections. Speaking of which, I once conducted an evaluation of the corpse collection in the Corpse Kingdom. In the final evaluation, the World Annihilation Corpse Manual that I created was the strongest. Below it, there were 3 corpse collections that were slightly weaker. The first one was the Gang Sutra written by the General Zhenghua, the first general under my command. This book was used by me as the specially cultivated corpse collection of the embroidered uniform guards, and I personally approved it. The embroidered uniform guards of the Imperial Army of the Inner Palace are qualified to cultivate the Gang Sutra. The uniqueness of this book is that it is compatible with any corpse collection that the user has previously cultivated. The second one was the Tian Yen Secret Sutra written by the founder of the Ministry of Secret. Assistant Minister Yen, who led you here just now, cultivated this corpse collection, and his strength is quite good. If you're interested as a secret officer, you can apply to get a copy of this book for free. The third one was the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra that no one has been able to cultivate for hundreds of years. The evaluation of this corpse collection can only be based on Grand Scholar Du's previous performance, and it's very likely that the potential of this book has been underestimated. I've also flipped through this book several times, but the basic chapters at the beginning are unconstrained and difficult to understand. The subsequent cultivation mode is also scattered. If you're not careful, you'll disturb the corpse energy in your body, and it's very easy to go mad. I once suspected that Grand Scholar Du was unwilling to pass down his lifelong knowledge, but I didn't expect you to be able to cultivate it. If my body didn't have these restrictions, I'd really like to have a try with you." Han Dong responded with a smile. "When the plan of the Corpse Kingdom is completely successful and your Majesty is free from the restrictions of your body, it won't be too late for us to have a competition." Hearing this, the Tomb King completely let go and laughed from the bottom of his heart. "Ha ha! Then it's settled. At that time, I'll suppress myself to the same level as you and have a good physical collision with you. After all, I also want to see if the World Annihilation Corpse Code is the best in the Corpse Kingdom, Such an answer also made Han Dong a little confused. Your Majesty, haven't you had a competition with Grand Scholar Du before? That's a pity. Grand Scholar Du once helped me through the two most difficult periods of the Corpse Kingdom's establishment, the Demon Region turmoil and the Xuanmen coup. He was already injured in the Demon Region, and during the Xianmen coup, he was besieged by more than 10 experts. Although he suppressed the traitors in the end, he suffered irreparable injuries and passed away a few days later. Is Grand Scholar Du's corpse still here? The corpses of zombies who have made important contributions to the Corpse Kingdom will be kept in the Earth Emanations Hall forever. The Tomb King had already seen through Han Dong's thoughts, and he handed over a black jade pendant that contained death energy. With this jade pendant, you can go to any area, including the Chain District and the Earth Emanations Hall. If there's anything else you need, ask Assistant Minister Yen to find a normal excuse to bring you to the Taiji Palace to see me. All right. I'll have to trouble you with this. The discussion in the Taiji Palace lasted for more than an hour. Assistant Minister Yen and the 2 embroidered uniform guards who were waiting outside the door were already in a terrible fix. They were constantly worried about the Emperor's safety. After all, no one had been able to stay in the Taiji Palace for such a long time, let alone a small secret official examination. Just as everyone was about to lose their patience and wanted to enter the palace privately, a series of footsteps came from the inner palace, accompanied by Han Dong's figure. Before Assistant Minister Yen could ask anything, Han Dong took out the secret official document that was stamped by the Tomb King at his waist. I've passed the secret official examination. His Majesty asked me to cooperate with Assistant Minister Yen to study the contents of the manuscript and try to perfect the corpse goo further. This is the most crucial period, and we can't make any mistake. Alright, let's go to the secret department first. Assistant Minister Yen had 10,000 questions in his heart, but he didn't know how to ask them. Chapter 1245. Secret Department. It was a special department set up after the Xianmen coup. The original intention of its creation was to ensure that there would not be a large-scale coup that could threaten the Tomb Lord's position. Through secret methods, a type of corpse goo was created in the brains of all zombies that did not interfere with their subjective consciousness. It became the basic method of the secret department to control the fate of the country. Although the secret department was as famous as the 6 divisions, because every secret officer had to obtain the approval of the Tomb Lord, the total number of secret officers never exceeded 20. Its office was remodeled from the Imperial Pharmacy and was only 1,000 steps away from the Taiji Gate. The air of the secret department was filled with a strong medicinal smell, mixed with the nauseating stench of corpses. Han Dong, regarding the corpse goo flaw mentioned in your manuscript, can you start the related work in a short time? We need to produce results as soon as possible. Sir Yen, can you wait for me for 2 hours? Naturally, I will give you time to rest. After all, you just went to Taiji Palace and the pressure from the Emperor is a great burden on your body. I will give you a day to rest, and you can start the related work tomorrow. No need, 2 hours is enough. Han Dong finished the manuscript that he had hastily written in an hour. Holding the new manuscript that was 3 times as thick as the previous one, he went straight to Assistant Minister Yan's office. Yen Bowen immediately examined the more detailed manuscript in front of him. Not only did it explain in detail the reasons for the corpse goo's flaw, it also explained in detail how to solve it. The more Yen Bowen read, the more confused he became. He did not understand how Han Dong had managed to write such a manuscript when he lacked all kinds of facilities. Of course, he did not know that Han Dong had a universal analyzer in his head. When Assistant Minister Yen read the last page of the manuscript in one breath, a jade token emitting a black aura slid out of the paper, scaring him so much that he almost fell off his chair. This is the Death Jade. Han Dong put a finger to his lips and said in a low voice, Assistant Minister Yen, please keep the matter of the death jade a secret. I need to use the identity of a secret officer to hide my daily whereabouts and help the Emperor secretly deal with some matters. I hope Assistant Minister Yen will try not to give me too much work. Assistant Minister Yen was completely dumbfounded. Han Dong had the death jade, which meant that his authority was far greater than that of an assistant minister. How could he dare to arrange any work? Moreover, Han Dong had already given him an incomparably detailed research manuscript, so he only needed to follow the method written on it. Who exactly are you? Forget it, I have no right to ask. With the death jade, you are the Emperor's special envoy. I will obey all your requests, and I will keep everything about Shang Yu a secret. Is there anything I can do to help? Lord Yen, have you been to the Chain District at the bottom of the military camp and the Earth Evil Spirits Hall where the corpses of important officials are kept? Yes, but I've only been there once on official business. Also, with your current status, it's more appropriate for me to call you Lord Han. This is also a part of hiding my identity. Lord Yen, just think of me as a newly appointed secret officer. You don't have to be too restrained. I'm just using Shang Yu to do some things. If I give this research manuscript to other secret officers, they should be able to understand it and follow the steps to remove the defects of the corpse parasite. Why don't I leave the manuscript to my subordinates, and Lord Yen can take me to these two places? Han Dong's idea was very simple. He was not familiar with the areas he was about to go to. If there was a leak during this period and the danger lurking in the dark knew about it, the situation could become troublesome. With Assistant Minister Yan's identity, it would be normal for him to go to these two areas in the name of the secret department. Okay. Shang Yu was like an imperial edict that could be changed at will. Yen Bowen could not refuse Han Dong's request. Thinking about it carefully, it was a little funny. A few hours ago, Han Dong was just a secret officer candidate that he had accidentally discovered. Now, he was directly above him. The speed at which he turned from guest to host was too fast. When do we leave? Now. Han Dong had already slept for 3 days and 3 nights during his return from the demon region. In addition, he had a series of conversations with the Tomb Lord. He was full of energy. Han Dong could not wait to obtain another share in a high-level world. No matter how many shares he had, it would be enough as long as he could ask for help at a critical moment. Furthermore, it was definitely worth it to invest in the extremely talented Tomb Lord. Earth Emanations Hall, it was located at the rear right of the palace area. Compared to the other palaces, which were guarded by the black zombies from the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of War, Earth Emanations Hall was exceptionally quiet. There was only a decaying and dilapidated coffin in the front yard. It was also because of the existence of this coffin that Earth Emanations Hall's human traffic in the past 100 years was only in the single digit. Due to special reasons, the security of Earth Emanations Hall is personally supervised by the black zombie with the highest seniority in the embroidered uniform guard. His name is Yen Quan. Even though he is old, his strength is enough to rank in the top 3 of the current embroidered uniform guard. Due to his strange temper, I rarely interact with him. Yen Bowen led Han Dong to the decaying wooden coffin. A voice filled with murderous intent immediately sounded from within. Assistant Minister Yen, why have you come to Earth Emanations Hall? I have not received any notice regarding the secret department's work. If there is nothing else, please leave quickly. Do not disturb my rest. I have important matters to attend to. Yen Bowen secretly tapped the death jade on the surface of the coffin. HM. The coffin's lid was suddenly pushed open, and a rotten smell wafted out. An old zombie that was severely decayed and had exposed a large amount of white bones suddenly opened its eyes and sat up. Who do you want to visit? Grand Secretary Du Zhijing. What's the matter? Forget it, follow me. Yen Quan swallowed his habitual question. With the death jade here, Even if the two people in front of him wanted to move all the corpses of Earth Emanations Hall away, he had no right to question them. A heavy saber that was about 9 feet long, with skulls embedded in its hilt, was carried on Yen Quan's back. The saturation of the flesh in his body was only 30%, and most of his body was completely covered in white bones. The corpse collection that he cultivated was also related to bones. Every step he took would produce an exaggerated sound of bones rubbing against each other. After passing through this corridor, you will reach the inner palace where Grand Secretary Du is kept. According to the rules, only one person can enter at a time. Assistant Minister Yen, this follower will stay outside. You can go in alone. Unexpectedly, Assistant Minister Yen remained at the door. The one who stepped into the corridor of the inner palace was the follower, who had been silent the entire time. We are only here to investigate a small matter. Let this subordinate of mine go in and do it. A small matter. Due to the isolation of the passageways in the extravagantly decorated inner palace, there was no stench of rotting corpses. Instead, it was unusually fragrant. A thin and frail corpse was kept in a crystal coffin in the middle of the inner palace. As expected of a peerless scholar, did he take up this entire room alone? Just as Han Dong slowly approached the coffin, the corpse that had been dead for hundreds of years actually floated up. Chapter 1246. Just as the corpse of the old man in the crystal coffin floated up, the long-awaited system notification sounded in a severely disrupted manner. Buzz. Special Area, Earth Emanations Hall, Secret Chamber in the Inner Hall, Conditions met. 1. Enter alone and do not bring any unrelated zombies with you. 2. Participant uses the body of a zombie to cultivate the floating corpse internal sutra and has reached the core condensation stage. After testing, the individual has met the above conditions. The area is being sealed. Please wait. The notification ended temporarily. The cloud-like power of the rules immediately blocked the only stone door in the inner hall. At the same time, it created an invisible barrier in the secret chamber that prevented the Earth Emanations Hall from being destroyed. Exclusive plot: Day of the Floating Corpse has been triggered. Requirements: kill the author of the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra, Du Zhijing, Founding Scholar. Reward: exclusive personal item X1*. Note: the trigger conditions for the exclusive plot are extremely harsh. Once triggered, it must be completed. In the custom-made reward mode, the system will give an exclusive reward based on the individual's overall situation. The long-awaited system notification made Han Dong feel like he had in the past again. Han Dong also showed a long-awaited crazed smile. He licked the corner of his mouth with his tongue. I originally just wanted to take a look and understand what was so special about the person who created the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra. I didn't expect to encounter such a good thing. As expected, the old zombie who created such a collection of zombies wouldn't die so easily. He was seriously injured when he was alive, so he used some special method to preserve his last breath, and stayed here to wait for the fated person? The area of the inner hall was not big. It was only about 80 square meters. However, it was 6 meters tall. Han Dong immediately retreated to a corner, as far away as possible, and carefully observed the changes in the corpse. The corpse lying flat in the crystal coffin slowly floated up, sparse hair and teeth that were almost gone. There were many grooves on the surface of the mummified corpse. There were blue flowers and plants in these grooves. It was a method to preserve corpses for a long time in the Corpse Kingdom. The scholar's official robe was placed under the corpse. Crack as it floated up, the fingers and toes began to move slightly. There were also signs of the eyeballs moving under the eyelid. When the eyes slowly opened, the pupils were facing Han Dong in the corner. A long-awaited and excited smile appeared on Grand Secretary Du's face. Then, a dry and leaky voice came. How many years has it been? I didn't expect that there would be someone who could perfectly cultivate the floating corpse internal sutra that I learned from the murals in the ancient ruins. Since it's impossible to copy the murals, we can only transfer the murals through word. The murals are extremely long and difficult to understand. Even I don't think anyone can completely cultivate them. Because the text can't be altered at all, I can only force the Ministry of Personnel to compile it into a zombie collection and distribute it to all the bookstores in the zombie nation. I hope that one day there will be a genius who can deduce the murals based on the text. It had finally appeared. As long as I consume your inner core, I will be completely reborn and continue to serve His Majesty. After saying that, the old man reached out and touched the surface of the coffin lid. 1. Even though he didn't use much strength, the coffin lid flew towards Han Dong, who was in the corner at an extremely fast speed. Transforming strength. He took a step forward and gently lifted the coffin lid with both hands. This action caused the coffin lid to change its path and smash into the side wall. Han Dong's action also won him a burst of praise. Good. Your series of actions just now is enough to show that the coordination between the physical body and the cultivation method is quite perfect. After swallowing the inner core, you can combine it with the corpse oil squeezed from your physical body. The effect should be better. Grand Secretary Du had put on his former official uniform and left the coffin. However, Han Dong didn't get into a state of readiness due to the danger. Instead, he was smiling. He was very interested in Grand Secretary Du's words just now. Can you ask me a few questions before I die? It's not easy for me to cultivate the floating corpse internal sutra. It's really not easy. Ask, I'll try my best to answer your questions. Grand Secretary Du, you just said that the floating corpse internal sutra was created by a sudden inspiration from the murals in the ancient ruins. I want to know which one is more important. Is it more important for you to create it? Or is it more important for the content in the murals? Your questions are very deep. It seems that you have carefully studied the preface. Both sides are equally important. Maybe the murals are more important. Since you want to know, I'll tell you. The discovery of the ancient ruins was my destiny. When I left, the ruins collapsed and disappeared from the world. At the same time, the memory of the murals was completely engraved in my mind because of a method of inheritance in the ruins. Even if I was in a state of semi-death for hundreds of years, I didn't lose any memory. Zombie. The information given in the ruins completely subverted my worldview. It's also the fundamental reason why I'm willing to help the Tomb King to build a perfect zombie country. According to the records in the ruins, the world we live in is a zombie because of the imbalance of yin and yang. The zombies are the masters of this world. The one who left the murals was a zombie who could go anywhere. He called himself Floating Corpse Immortal. I'm the only inheritor in these thousands of years. I'll carry his will and help the Tomb King build a great empire that only belongs to zombies. Clap, clap, clap. Han Dong couldn't help but applaud when he heard this. Well said, you deserve to be called the Grand Secretary. Sure enough, such a mysterious floating corpse internal scripture was not created by you, but something left by others. So I'm relieved that I can try to keep this ability. Grand Secretary Du was very puzzled by Han Dong's happy expression and relaxed words. Keep, the confidence to survive was brought to you by the floating corpse internal scripture? It seems that you've relied on this ability to defeat many black zombies of the same level, right? What a pity. When I created it, I deliberately kept it a secret and omitted the advanced skills. What you've learned is only the basic skills, that is, you can levitate, escape, and dissipate force. But you don't know the way of killing the enemy, hidden in the murals. The gap between them is something you can't surpass. I'll let you see the real killing skills. After that, Du Zhijing swam forward in a posture similar to a water ghost. Liquid-like corpse gas condensed in the palm, making the whole palm look like it was soaked in water and looked blurred. Melting bone palm. No matter where the palm hit, the liquid corpse gas could be poured into the target's body, bringing a softening effect and eliminating all the physical defense of the zombie. In the face of such a dangerous palm, Han Dong said with a smile, "Did I say that I'll use the same skill to fight with you? Count, swallow him." A skull overflowing with dark blood, bright red and twisting tentacles, scarlet eyeballs of different sizes, thousands of terrifying twisted fangs, and a big mouth that went straight to the scarlet abyss. In an instant, a 4-meter-long blood dog was built on the right arm. Du Zhijing had a feeling of being locked by the eyeballs. In addition, the secret room was very small and there was no way to escape. He swallowed it in one gulp. Chapter 1247. Han Dong had heard of the phrase, Master of Arts, before. As a professor, he knew very well what it meant to specialize in a field. As a professor in the field of cell biology, if Han Dong was asked to do pharmacokinetics, he might not be able to do it as well as an ordinary lecturer. The moment he received the exclusive plot, Han Dong didn't think of using the floating corpse internal scripture to deal with this scholar. With the support of the epic equipment, Blood Oath's master, Roghorn's blood skull, damaged, and with the atavistic count, the strength of the blood dog was enough to threaten most of the atavistic hybrid demons. Without Du Zhijing realizing it at all, it opened its mouth wide and swallowed him in an instant. It was completely possible to kill him in one move. However, boom! Several broken tentacles flew in all directions. Du Zhijing changed the flow of the corpse energy in his body and blasted a hole in the side of the blood dog's mouth with one palm. He drilled out through a skill similar to bone shrinkage to save his life. Although it seemed to be the best choice in a short time to avoid being swallowed, Du Zhijing's condition was not good at all. Many parts of his body were penetrated by the dog's teeth, leaving curved and twisting teeth holes. There were also dense miniature tentacles growing in the wounds, further destroying Du Zhijing's body. The worst thing was, an invisible pollution had already affected Du Zhijing's consciousness. Even as a zombie, he couldn't avoid it. The pollution from the hybrid demons was something that no life in any world could resist. When fighting with the hybrid demons, one must be prepared to guard against the pollution. Otherwise, if the battle couldn't end in a short time, the body and consciousness would be completely degenerated during the battle and become a low-level evil creature. Traces of pollution that were difficult to remove appeared around Du Zhijing's eyes. There was also a whisper in his consciousness that was more ancient than the tomb world. It forced Du Zhijing to immediately distance himself and stared at the young man in front of him with a look of examining a monster. You are not a native. Even in the demon realm, such an evil force has never existed before. Yes, how can a native understand the floating corpse internal scripture you wrote? I was only here to pay a visit to your corpse, but I didn't expect to gain something like this. I'll take the memories imprinted in your brain. Han Dong didn't want to waste too much time here, nor did he want to make too much noise. He was going all out. Chun-Li, Togugo, little sister Nicole, cooperate with me to strengthen the pollution attribute. Whoosh! Several huge octopus tentacles grew out of his back. Han Dong took off his shirt at the same time, and a large number of deep-sea runes appeared on his skin, forming a strange visual effect. When Du Zhijing looked at Han Dong, he had the illusion that he was sinking into the deep sea. In his eyes, the young zombie in front of him had turned into an indescribable deep-sea monster that existed between reality and illusion. Hidden among the large number of tentacles was an indescribable deep one that would cause anyone to go crazy if they saw it clearly. The more he watched, the murmurs that lingered in Du Zhijing's mind grew clearer and clearer. In fact, he even felt as if a few sticky tentacles had already drilled into his skull and could drag his brain into the depths of the sea at any moment. Even if he was hundreds of years old, it was difficult for him to accept such a situation. "What kind of monster are you?" Saying this meant that a crack had appeared in Du Zhijing's heart. At the same time, Tugu, whose body was covered with iron nails, and Miss Chun-Li, whose black hair covered her, appeared one after another. However, the end of this battle was much slower than expected. It lasted for an entire hour. Chun-Li, who had just been promoted and was full of confidence, also fell into a somewhat autistic state. She slashed at the walls of the inner hall. She, who had always been proud of her agility, actually found it difficult to hit her target during the battle. Every time the blade was about to cut into his body, Du Zhijing would easily resolve it. However, Tugu was the same. The chains and a series of hell magic were difficult to hit the target, and only a small part of the pain spell was applied. The reason for this Grand Scholar Du's defeat was that his last breath was completely exhausted. No matter how strange his body was, even if the floating corpse internal scripture could help him resolve any damage, the pollution from the origin of the hybrid demons could not be avoided. In the last second of exhausting his strength, Du Zhijing's expression was full of unwillingness, as if he was not willing to admit that the monster Han Dong had defeated him at all. So strong. A corpse collection that involves the origin of the tomb world could actually polish the body to such an extent that even Chun-Li's attacks could be resolved. Interesting. Gag, a tentacle drilled out from the palm of his hand. Han Dong intended to steal the inherited memories imprinted in Du Zhijing's brain. However, just as the tentacle touched the scalp, rustle, the corpse collapsed and disintegrated in just 2 seconds, turning into dust. Du Zhijing should have died hundreds of years ago, but he had kept his last breath through special means. After waking up, not only did his body not have any corpse oil to replenish it, but he also engaged in an extremely high-intensity battle. As a result, his body had long exceeded the limit of what it could withstand by several times, or even 10 times. It disintegrated at the touch. Ding, however, a shiny black pearl fell to the ground. This is... Just as Han Dong was curious, a system notification came. Frowny face, important person detected. Du Zhijing is dead. Exclusive reward. Floating corpse pearl has been dropped from the corpse. Please pick it up and check the relevant information. Floating corpse pearl type. Legacy of Fate introduction. The legacy left behind by the creator of Tomb. Experience points related to the pearl can be stored in it. At the end of the game, an equivalent amount of points is spent to bring it back to the main world and be inherited by the main body. Effect. Body enhancement type usage requirement. Limited to participants who have mastered the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra in the Tomb world. When he heard the introduction of the pearl, he couldn't help but laugh uncontrollably. An uncontrollable crazed laughter welled up in his heart. The crazy laughter in the sealed inner hall lasted for a full 5 minutes before it stopped. After Du Zhijing's introduction, Han Dong realized that the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra was extraordinary. Moreover, the technique itself had a certain degree of compatibility with the Black Vortex torso. Han Dong had been thinking about how to integrate the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra into the Black Vortex torso when the incident was over. I didn't expect to get it without any effort. I'm starting to like the fate mechanism given by the Black Tower more and more. After a little tidying up, he left the inner hall. Although the system had completely sealed off the inner hall, the battle that lasted for an hour still caused quite a commotion outside. What's going on? What did you do in the inner hall? The person in charge of the Earth Evil Hall, Yen Quan of the Brocade Guard, quickly questioned. Han Dong was too lazy to explain anything. He directly placed the Death Jade on the person and said softly, I can do whatever I want. I should be able to do whatever I want. Grand Secretary Du just turned into a corpse. Considering the safety of the palace, I killed him by the way. His corpse has been reduced to ashes. If there are any problems, you can report it to the Emperor. Lord Yen, let's go to the next place. Okay, although he called him Lord Yen verbally. Assistant Minister Yen was like an attendant, following Han Dong and leaving together. Chapter 1248. When he stepped out of the Earth Evil Hall. Assistant Minister Yen couldn't hold it in anymore. During the 1 hour of waiting, there were continuous noises coming from the inner hall. Obviously, there was a big battle, but Han Dong's explanation was corpse transformation. Although he had the death jade given by the Grave Lord, such a ridiculous explanation was too far-fetched. Mr. Han, what happened in the inner hall just now? Didn't I tell you? Grand Secretary Du's corpse was transformed. Considering the safety issue, I killed him directly. He was originally a zombie. How could he be transformed? It's probably like this. Han Dong understood Assistant Minister Yan's concern. At the same time, because he got the inheritance treasure, he patiently explained to Assistant Minister Yen the resurrection plan of Grand Secretary Du. Yen Bowen sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard what had happened. According to what you said, it's really corpse transformation. The Imperial Doctor has already examined Du Zhijing and pronounced him dead. I didn't expect him to have such a trick up his sleeve. No wonder you can buy the Floating Corpse Internal Classic in some ordinary bookstores. However, Yen Bowen was more concerned about something. Grand Secretary Du's 100-year plan fell in the hands of Han Dong. The most exaggerated thing was that he examined Han Dong's body from head to toe. Except for the reduction of the total amount of corpse energy, there was no injury at all. For a moment, he seemed to have guessed the reason why Han Dong was different from the others and why the Grave Lord gave him the Death Jade. Just as Han Dong was carrying out the plan and heading to the second destination, the Chain District. At the northern end of the Imperial Palace, there was a large building similar to a large steam locomotive built on the city wall. There was a huge plaque hanging above the main gate of the central area. There was only one big word printed on it, Army. This was the Central Ministry of War. They were responsible for the security of the outer walls of the Imperial Palace. The personnel who could work here were all black zombies with high combat strength and physical fitness. The style of the current Minister of War was completely different from Wang Xing. He was a zombie who liked to accept new things and was very interested in mechanical technology. He asked the Ministry of Works to do a general assessment of himself. As a result, the Ministry of War and the Ministry of Works worked closely together. The Ministry of War used extremely strict methods to select military officers suitable for mechanical body modification and provide them to the Ministry of Works for mechanical body modification experiment. Even if the military officer died during the experiment, the Ministry of War would not pursue any responsibility. In return, the Ministry of Works would provide some technical personnel to serve the Ministry of War. The martial arts practice field was now jointly managed by the two divisions. While training the soldiers, they would also use the latest firearms in the training field. They would either let the mechanical body-modified soldiers engage in a life-and-death battle with the normal zombies, or directly bombard the zombies with firearms to find out the direction of modification and improvement. Currently, Central Ministry of War, Divine Weapon Furnace. It was a special area built by 100 craftsmen from the Ministry of Works. At the same time, it was also the meeting room of the Minister of War. A zombie that was over 3 meters tall and emitted a scorching aura was sitting on a black iron chair that was tailor-made for him. Placed on the back of the chair were the mechanical weapons that only this person could lift and move, a heavy hammer and saw blade. They were personally designed by the Minister of Works and forged using materials obtained from the depths of the demon territory by the Ministry of War. They were extremely lethal. Hot molten iron flowed on both sides of the chair, to the point that the black iron chair was over 1,000 degrees Celsius. The most exaggerated thing was this person's physical body. With absolute strength, merits, and courage, He obtained the position of Minister of War and was personally praised by the Grave Lord. He was known as the Magma Beast. His entire body, including his face and chin, was embedded with black iron that contained the core craftsmanship, planting technology. At the same time, there were a large number of tubes running through the surface of the black iron. A high-temperature substance similar to molten iron flowed through them, carrying out a highly efficient external circulation. Minister of War. Shin Tu-yang, the strongest person in the Ministry of War, who replaced Wang Xing. Currently, after the relevant information was reported, Shin Tu-yang revealed a very cautious expression. The evidence you provided is basically true. If the relevant inferences are all established, this person is indeed a huge threat to our country. He must be eliminated as soon as possible. As for Wang Shiheng's matter, I have never taken it to heart. So what if this old man's legs have recovered? In his current state, he can't threaten my position at all. Let him retire peacefully. He can also help me kill more troublesome demon beasts. Just focus on keeping an eye on this person you speak of. If there is a chance, execute him directly. Chain District. The chain of the Corpse Kingdom and the surrounding floating islands pointed to the same area. It was located at the bottom of the military camp, about 5,000 meters underground. All the zombies who were labeled as locksmiths would be forcefully brought down and spend the rest of their lives in the Chain District. Recently, due to the sharp decrease in the number of locksmiths, the Corpse Kingdom was still cultivating zombie demons in the floating island area. These huge zombie demons were controlled by talismans to fill the gap in the locksmith's work. After killing the stronger demon beasts, their corpses would be buried in the floating island's graveyard. Due to absorbing a large amount of corpse chi, they would mutate. Going to the Chain District was much more convenient than going to the Earth Fiend Hall. Han Dong did not even have to show his death jade. He only obtained the pass because of his connections in the military camp and because of Assistant Minister Yan's special status. They sat on a vertical steam locomotive called the Earth Dragon. The Earth Dragon could carry up to 500 people at a time. At the same time, it was equipped with a special carriage that was specially used to control and transport the zombie demons. Han Dong and Assistant Minister Yen were special guests. They sat in the first carriage and were completely separated from the locksmiths behind them. They did not ask any questions along the way. Instead of letting Assistant Minister Yen describe the situation verbally, it was better to wait for a few more minutes so that they could personally witness the situation in the Chain District. The natural laws of the world itself form chains in order to prevent the Tomb Lord from stripping the world. If I'm not wrong, if the Tomb Lord wants to break or weaken the chains, he can only use a more cruel method. The train arrived at the station. Han Dong was shocked by the scene in front of him as soon as he got off the train. Even Assistant Minister Yen, who had been here before, showed an uncomfortable expression under the cover of his mask. The hellish scene in front of him was the reason why Assistant Minister Yen rarely came to the Chain District. The chains from the Corpse Kingdom and the floating island all intersected here. A huge cross formed by the natural laws of the world pierced through the ends of the chains and fixed them firmly here, restricting the Corpse Kingdom's ascension process. The locksmiths only had one duty: to pull out the cross. Reins were tied around their naked bodies, and the other end was tied to the surface of the cross. They had to pull the cross out day after day like a trucker. However, this was not the most terrifying thing. The physical exhaustion was nothing to them. The worst was the corrosion of the natural laws. Every locksmith's working here, including the zombie demons sent to pull the chains together, suffered from a type of chain disease. There were more or less chains on the surface of their bodies, and some were even dragged on the ground like exposed organs. The number and size of the chains were directly proportional to the time they worked. The chains on their bodies would bring them extreme pain on the soul level. It was like living insects crawling in their bones. It was like they were being burned endlessly by a raging fire. It was also the intense pain of having their flesh peeled off layer by layer. Wait, even if the parts where the chains grew out were cut off, it still could not stop the pain. Individuals who come into contact with the chains will be regarded as traitors, who have violated the natural laws of the world. They will be punished by the natural laws. However, while punishing individuals, the natural laws of the world will also consume an extremely small amount of power of regulation. The so-called pulling out the cross is just a way of saying it. In reality, it uses the method of piling up the number of people to consume the natural laws through zombies. How pitiful! Chapter 1249. That's why I don't want to come down here. Even if the secret ministry needs some samples, other secret officers will come here to do the work. It's cruel, but it's the only way. Assistant Minister Yen didn't want to continue looking at the terrible scene in front of him. He turned around and expressed his opinion. Han Dong, however, remained silent as he watched everything unfold before him. He didn't even blink his eyes. While his brain was receiving visual information, it was also operating at high speed. He was trying to break the chain in the simulated area of his brain. The brain simulation lasted for half an hour. Assistant Minister Yen began to wonder if Han Dong was a psychopath. He was actually immersed in such a scene. Considering the problem of the Shangyu, Assistant Minister Yen asked in a more respectful tone, "Mr. Han, what are you doing down here? Do you need to take samples or to inspect the work?" After Han Dong completed a simulation in his head, he slowly responded, "I'm here to pull out the chain." What did you say?" Yen Bowen thought he heard wrong. In his understanding, pulling out the chain was no different from suicide. It was even easier than suicide. The backlash from the chain was a rule that no zombie in the current world could resist. Perhaps the mythical body of the Tomb Lord could compete with the rule. But because the Tomb Lord was responsible for the creation of the Shang-Chi, he was restricted to the depths of the palace and couldn't interfere with the matters below. Han Dong patiently explained, "Let the Corpse Kingdom get rid of the chain is the task I received from the Tomb Lord. Assistant Minister Yen, bring me to meet the manager here. I plan to try to touch the cross that suppresses all the chains." "Do you really have a way to pull out the chain directly?" Assistant Minister Yan's question was absurd even in his own eyes. But he also knew one thing. Since the Emperor made the decision and gave the Shangyu to facilitate Han Dong's various actions, it must be because he trusted Han Dong and believed that he could pull out the chain. But Assistant Minister Yen couldn't figure out how to do it. The issue of the chains was far more important than the corpse goo. It was related to the foundation of the corpse country. As for the issue of the chains, all the departments of the imperial court would take care of it. Among them, the Department of Rights, which was in charge of the floating island, contributed the most. The issue of the chains had troubled the corpse country for hundreds of years. Countless corpses had sacrificed their lives for this issue. Even so, the overall consumption rate of the chain only reached 82%. Moreover, in the near future, the consumption rate has significantly decreased. Even if the Ministry of Rights applied to provide basic corpse collection to the residents of the floating island, provide mechanical technology, and even directly gift corpse oil, in order to increase the production rate of locksmiths. But even if there were more locksmiths than before, the consumption rate of the chains had decreased. The activation of the zombie demon plan could only barely keep up with the previous speed. Once all the zombie demons died, the speed would drop again. If they couldn't find a solution, the ascension of the Corpse Kingdom would be delayed by a few decades. They didn't know if the Tomb King could hold on. Han Dong stared at the cross and chains and replied softly, "I'll have to touch it to know if there's a way." "Alright, I'll take you there." Assistant Minister Yen didn't dare to be negligent. If Han Dong could really use some method to increase the consumption rate of the chains, he would be the greatest contributor to the Corpse Kingdom. Under Assistant Minister Yan's lead, they arrived at an underground building with a plaque of the Ministry of Rights. A large number of zombies dressed in civil official clothes sat in a tight row inside. Every zombie from the Ministry of Rights was equipped with a typewriter connected to the outside, which carried out all kinds of statistics, regulation, and supervision of the chain area. At the same time, an official with 6 eyes saw the arrival of the guest and came forward to greet him. Assistant Minister Yen, what brings you here? Could it be that the Ministry of Rights has come up with a new plan that will help our work? Or are you planning to bring back some locksmiths for research? Assistant Minister Chang, let's talk inside. In the cubicle, Han Dong put the jade on the table and made his request. The Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Rights, who was in charge of the underground fortifications, was stunned. He took over all the work here. No one knew better than him how difficult it was to consume the chains. But now, a zombie stood out and said that he could pull out the chains by himself. Even with the jade given by the Emperor, it was hard for him not to be suspicious. After hundreds of years of hard work, the removal of the chains has reached the final stage. This matter is related to the fall of the kingdom. I hope that Mr. Han won't act too recklessly. If your actions cause the chains to strengthen in the opposite direction, it means that tens of thousands of locksmiths' lives will be wasted. It means that our decades of hard work will go down the drain. If Sir Assistant Minister is worried, you can come with me. Assistant Minister Chang nodded. Okay, I'll go with you. Assistant Minister Yen can also come along. The purpose of calling Yen Bowen along was that if Han Dong made any strange movements, it would be easier for them to suppress him. Okay. But first, I have to make sure that I'm at least 20 meters away from the chains or the cross. Yen Bowen wasn't afraid, but once the chains touched him, even he couldn't remove them. Even if only a small part of the chains grew on his body, he would suffer endless pain until he died. Just like that, accompanied by the 2 assistant ministers, Han Dong approached the cross. Along the way, he brushed past many locksmiths. However, these locksmiths didn't react at all. Their eyes were unfocused as they silently worked on pulling the chains. A yellow talisman was pasted on the locksmiths' foreheads. It was a control talisman made by necromancers. At the same time, silver needles were inserted into the important acupuncture points on their bodies to suppress the pain and stimulate the potential of their bodies, striving to consume more of the power of control. This kind of control was necessary. None of the zombies could undertake this task without being interfered with by external forces. In addition, as they approached the cross, the pressure on the zombies also increased. The cross was clearly a manifestation of the holy light deliberately created by the world's rules to suppress the zombies. The light emitted from the surface of the cross could suppress and burn the zombies' bodies. They needed to cooperate with the zombies to resist and move forward. Assistant Minister Yen took out a spare sweat towel to wipe off the sweat on his body. In fact, he was stimulated by the cross and the corpse oil was being squeezed out of his body. When they were only 50 meters away, they could even hear the dripping sound of oil. The closer I get, the greater the pressure. Assistant ministers, please wait here. I'll go take a look. Don't worry, I won't do anything rash. Compared to the 2 assistant ministers whose bodies were constantly leaking corpse oil, Han Dong was completely fine. When he felt the pressure from the cross, he covered all parts of his body with his tentacles to resist the pressure head-on. There was no hesitation. As soon as he approached the cross, Han Dong gently placed his palm on it. While the 2 assistant ministers were worried, Han Dong smiled and made an okay gesture with his free left hand. Chapter 1250. Han Dong did not seem to be pressured as he placed his palm on the cross. From the outside, nothing seemed to have happened. The 2 assistant ministers were also stunned. Just being able to touch the cross without being affected was already incredible. However, from Han Dong's perspective, he could see that something bad was happening. A series of system notifications sounded in his mind. It was as if the cross could be used as a signal receiver to protect the connection with the fate system before the world completely went out of control. You have 2 important messages, please check immediately. 1. The current area is a forbidden zone, please leave quickly and report the situation here to the Black Tower. This information report will give you an additional reward in addition to the basic reward. 2. Battle mission, optional. If you have a certain amount of confidence in your strength and hold a node or share in another world, you can choose to accept a battle mission, a lock of fate. Mission requirement. Eliminate all zombies in the current area and at the same time, inject world energy into the chain to repair it. The world energy consumed will be fully reimbursed when returning to the Black Tower. At the same time, if the repair value is above 20%, you will also receive the honor of the Black Tower. Honor points are closely related to the employee's promotion and cannot be obtained through regular missions. Quite generous. However, I have already promised someone in advance. Going back on my words is not a good thing. That was what he said. But in Han Dong's eyes, the reward given by the system was not enough to change his position. Once Han Dong succeeded in what he wanted to do, he would obtain the shares of the world from the Tomb Lord and the favor of an executive of the Black Tower. This was not something that could be exchanged with honor points. Togu, can you deal with this chain that is derived from the rules of the world? I can't do it alone. However, I can use my affinity with the chain to find and touch the source of the chain. The best way is for Master to use your authority and use the world energy to move it. Well, if that's the case, it should work. But the specific control is another matter. Master, do you want to do it now? No hurry, I still have to confirm with the Tomb Lord. If he's not ready yet, we'll just pull it out. There's a high chance that the connection will fail, and the world's rules will use the gap to bind the corpse country in another way. At that time, the rules will become another method of restraint that is not beneficial for us to break, and it will be very difficult at that time. All right. After pondering for a while, Han Dong made another decision. Togu, why don't you stay here and establish a connection with the chains of law? Since we're going to do something so troublesome, we need to get all the benefits and make the best use of everything. He felt that it was a pity to just remove the chains. Stay here and familiarize yourself with the nature of the chains. When we pull them out, try and see if you can fuse them into your body. I won't disappoint you, Master. Togo Gonzalez was the most reliable person in Faceless Prison. It was also because of this that Han Dong made such a dangerous decision. To be exact, the townsfolk of Dry Town were very reliable. After all, they were all special talents selected by the mayor. Servant has a retractable range of 10 meters. There was a slight sound of iron chains clashing. Togu's body had already appeared in the shadow of the cross, just out of the sight of the 2 assistant ministers. Han Dong, on the other hand, looked relaxed as if he had finished his task and left the area of the cross. How's the situation? Assistant Minister Yen asked anxiously as he wiped off the corpse oil on his body with a handkerchief. Assistant Minister Chang, who was in charge of the underground fortifications, also looked anxious. He was eager to hear Han Dong's answer. If there are no accidents, I should be able to help you quickly remove the chains. Before that, I still have to meet the Tomb Lord. Really? How do you do it? Assistant Minister Chang's 6 eyes were wide open. He was eager to know the answer. As for how to do it, you'll know when the time comes. It's not convenient to reveal it now. Also, please keep this a secret, Sir Assistant Minister. If someone comes looking for you tonight and asks why Assistant Minister Yen and I are here, just say that we're here to take samples. Also, give us 2 corpses that have been corroded by the chains and bring them back together. Han Dong held the death jade in his hand to express his attitude. All right. I'll cooperate fully. Assistant Minister Chang led the way. Han Dong was brought to a place that was thousands of meters away. It was a place that was specially dug to store the corpses of locksmith. These zombies that had died from the backlash of the rules could not be destroyed. They could only be buried in a secret area. When he pushed open the giant metal door of the quarantine area that was more than 10 meters tall, the scene in front of him made Han Dong's heart tremble. Most of the so-called corpses were not completely dead. When the rate of corrosion reached 50%, there would be serious problems with their mobility. Once they were determined to be unable to work as locksmiths, they would be thrown here. The scale of the quarantine area was probably the sum of more than 10 large workshops. There were tens of thousands of corpses piled up here, perhaps even more. Han Dong's brows furrowed tightly as he stared at the zombies, whose bodies were covered in chains and twitching in pain. He felt very uncomfortable. Since they're useless, why don't we just kill them? This method is comparable to torture. Assistant Minister Chang looked helpless. It's not that we don't want to do it, but we can't. Most of the bodies that have been deeply corroded have been replaced by chains. It's very difficult to kill them. Even I have to put in a lot of effort to kill one of them. When the chains are removed, let me deal with these zombies. On the return journey, because of today's incredible experience, the famous assistant minister of the secret ministry, Yen Bowen, also looked like he was about to turn into a follower. During the return journey, he walked behind Han Dong many times. Are we going directly to Taiji Palace to meet the emperor? Assistant Minister Yan's words contained a hint of urgency. It's getting late. Let's wait for a night before going. There might be people secretly investigating our movement. They might even talk to the officials we've interacted with. Let's give them some time. Who would be able to trace it back to us? Assistant Minister Yen looked unhappy. He had wanted to ask this question when he was underground. He was the assistant minister of the secret ministry, a second-grade official. Who would dare to investigate his movements? It might be someone with a higher rank than you. Anyway, give them some time. If they really investigate us, there's a high chance that this group of people will meet the emperor with us tomorrow. What's the purpose of this group of people? You have the Death Jade. Can't you just talk to them? The reason I called Assistant Minister Yen is to use the secret ministry as a cover to hide the fact that I have the Death Jade. I can't let them know that I have this layer of relationship, otherwise it'll be difficult to uproot them. There are traitors in the palace. We'll know tomorrow. Go back and sleep peacefully. Chapter 1251. Late at night. The Secret Ministry's medicine room. Han Dong, the new pharmacist of the Secret Ministry, was arranged to rest here. Assistant Minister Yen considered that the cubicle was too small and the accessories were shabby, which did not match Han Dong's identity. Therefore, he invited Han Dong to rest in his room so that they could continue discussing the matter of the traitor. However, Han Dong politely refused and wanted to rest alone. In the cubicle, Han Dong was still awake. He held the bead of inheritance that fell from Scholar Du's body with one hand and thought about something while lying on the bed. Removing the chains will definitely be a big project. In addition to using Toga's characteristics and my authority, I also need enough power to support it. Tomorrow, I'll borrow some manpower from the Tomb Lord or ask the doctor for help. It should be possible to provide enough steam power through the Ministry of Work. Once I succeed, I'll be able to enjoy the fruits of my hard work over the past few months. At the same time, it's time to think about the door opening. Every talent that I've allocated should have a unique effect when it comes to the door opening. I'm looking forward to what the door opening of the Fate system will be like. I'll strive to use the experience of the door opening in the Corpse Kingdom to reach the level of the body of origin. At this moment, the candlelight at the bedside flickered slightly. As a black shadow flashed, something strange happened. Strands of black hair that looked like living creatures seeped into the room through the gaps in the window. Like hair falling off, they all fell to the ground. when the hair piled up to a certain thickness, something slowly bulged from the center. As this thing bulged, the brightness of the candlelight in the room was suppressed to the minimum. Through the gaps in the hair, the bulge was a pale woman's head. Han Dong was indifferent to the situation in front of him. He asked with a serious face, "What's wrong? Have you discovered the intruder?" "There's no intruder. The outer courtyard of the secret ministry has several kinds of barriers. At the same time, there are many perceptive zombies as servants. Even a fly can't sneak in, let alone an intruder. I'm so bored. I want to go back to the prison to rest." The woman's head corresponded to Miss Chun-Li. Chun-Li, who had completely turned into a ghost by committing suicide, was no longer restricted by her physical body. She could use her hair as a carrier to move around. Moreover, after her experience in Yin-Yang Road, due to the remnant consciousnesses of countless malicious ghosts mixed in, Chun-Li's personality had changed. She had become much more cheerful from her previous introverted self, and there was even a hint of resentment in her. Rustled black hair intertwining a spotlessly white and flawless body was constructed, and it was perfectly connected to the head. Her overall appearance and temperament made her look like a strong woman who had maintained herself well and had never been in contact with the opposite sex. Since she had not been taken back to the prison, Chun-Li climbed onto the bed and put her head in front of Han Dong. "Why aren't you letting me go? Don't tell me you want to sleep with me. Little sister Nicole, you're looking at everything outside in your head. Aren't you embarrassed? I can freely shut down the prison's communication with the outside world." Hearing Han Dong's words, Chun-Li suddenly had a strange feeling. A part of the negative consciousness that had settled in Chun-Li's body, which symbolized sin, began to grow crazily. Soft and cold hair began to stick to his body. "So you really want to sleep with me? Don't you have something important to do tomorrow?" Although I haven't had any deep contact between a man and a woman, the chaotic consciousness in my head seems to contain knowledge in this area, and it seems to be quite interesting. If you can do it tomorrow, then come. Just as Chun-Li took the initiative to lean forward, and the two of them were about to stick together, bang! She slammed her head against the prison wall. The sudden change made Chun-Li so angry that she took out her saber. Just as she was about to question Han Dong about what was wrong with this person, a voice came from around the prison. "Someone's coming. Stay in the prison first." "How is that possible? I clearly set up some of my hair in different areas. No matter what zombie approaches, I will sense it. The other party isn't a zombie or even a physical body. It's very difficult for me to locate them. I can only capture some of their aura. Alright, I'll call you if I need anything." The call was cut off. Chun-Li didn't feel good about it. This meant that she had another thing that she didn't do well. Moreover, it was difficult for her to vent the lust that rose in her heart. She could only hack at the wall alone in the prison. However, Chun-Li suddenly thought of something and quickly glanced at the third cell. Nicole's younger sister immediately felt a chill run down her spine. Following this uneasy gaze, she looked over. In the first prison cell, a woman with black hair covering her face was waving at her. She shook her head vigorously. The resentment and ghostly energy that came from Chun-Li made Nicole feel instinctively afraid. She preferred to play with O-Spotted Toad, Meritus, who had similar attributes. At least both of them were hybrid demons and liked slippery things. However, Nicole didn't have time to resist. Strands of hair had already spread to her cell. On the other side of reality, Han Dong stared out the window with a cautious expression. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a female voice in his head. "What is Chun-Li doing? Is she venting her anger on Nicole? It should be just a game. It's nothing." Han Dong decisively cut off the communication with the prison and focused on the current situation. The reason why he was able to discover the intruder was because of Chun-Li's intimate action just now. This was because ghosts and zombies had the same Yin attribute. When Chun-Li's hair stuck to the zombie's body, It actually blended with the corpse energy in the zombie's body. Under the influence of the lust and resentment, the zombie actually sent signals to the brain, stimulating the secretion of extremely rare hormones. This forced Han Dong to raise his attention and occasionally catch the debris in the air. If it weren't for the debris, he might have lost a large part of his energy tonight, which would hinder tomorrow's operation. It's really here. It can even infiltrate the inner court of the secret department. As expected of a method from another world, Han Dong hurriedly put away the bead of inheritance and replaced it with a few proliferating chains from the locksmith's body. He pretended to be thinking about problems related to chains. The strange feeling in the air lasted for a full half an hour before it completely disappeared. Not a trace was left behind. This way, I can be completely sure. I can finally have a good night's sleep. See you tomorrow. The reason why Han Dong hadn't slept was because he was waiting for the intruder to sneak in. As long as this was confirmed, he could basically be sure that he would meet the intruder in the meeting tomorrow. The next day, in front of the Tai Chi gate, Assistant Minister Yen used the major breakthrough in the research of corpse parasites and sample analysis of the chain area as the reason to submit the document to the Emperor. At the same time, he also brought Han Dong with him. The reason was that these two matters were closely related to Han Dong. In less than half an hour, the embroidered uniform guard sent back a notice that the Tai Chi gate was opening inwards. Just as Han Dong stepped onto the stairs in front of the Tai Chi hall, the Tai Chi gate behind him opened again, and at the same time, a wave of heat hit him. So strong. Scorching corpse energy. This is the first time I've seen it. Even without turning around, Han Dong could feel the strength of the intruder through the wave of heat. Assistant Minister Yen, who was walking in front, had an extremely unpleasant expression. He recalled what Han Dong had said yesterday, that there would be a traitor coming with him to meet the Emperor. Minister of War Shen Tuyang. Mr. Han, is this the traitor you mentioned? Chapter 1252. Shen Tuyang was a ruthless person known by everyone in the imperial court. The Ministry of War and the Ministry of Justice were more direct than the other departments in obtaining positions in these two departments. Shen Tuyang was a battle maniac who had achieved a record of 100 wins and 0 losses. He sat in the position of Minister of War with absolute strength. Coupled with the fact that Shen Tuyang was willing to accept new biomass, he had a good relationship with many departments in private. Through some conditions that people could not refuse, he obtained technical support from different departments. The department with the deepest connection was the Ministry of Work. The mask covered the nose and below, only revealing Guangxing's head and eyes. The black iron armor embedded in the giant body made the heavy sound of armor rubbing against each other with every step he took. The heavy weapons hanging on his back were the power weapons that Shen Tuyang obtained through his power and connections, a heavy hammer that could crush all defenses and a power sword that could tear all flesh apart. The handles of the weapons were equipped with holes and grooves that could be connected to the tubes on the surface of Shen Tuyang's body. These tubes all over his body were connected to Shen Tuyang's Niden. The molten iron flowing between the tubes was actually a high-temperature corpse fluid. Its efficiency of storing energy was several times higher than the corpse gas of ordinary black zombies. Such an image could directly bring visual pressure to the opponent. Han Dong looked back at the Minister of War, who had just stepped through the Tai Chi gate, and frowned slightly. Very strong, and it combines the two iconic characteristics of Tomb, a powerful zombie body and advanced steam technology. It's really difficult to deal with without Tugu by his side. However, this guy's characteristics can be recorded by the doctor. Who knows, it might be applied to the ghouls in the manor. Judging from the aura alone, Shen Tuyang was the strongest black zombie Han Dong had encountered in Tomb. Similarly, Shen Tuyang was not alone. There was a subordinate beside him, shrouded in a cloak that could block perception. His true identity could not be identified. Could this be the traitor? Assistant Minister Yen was already a little panicked. At the same time, he did not quite believe that the traitor Han Dong spoke of was Shintuyang, who held military power. Although Shintuyang was fierce and cruel, he was completely loyal to the emperor. The position of minister required the personal examination of the Tomb Lord, who tested one's temperament through extreme methods. Only by obtaining the recognition of the Tomb Monarch could one pass the final examination and sit in the corresponding position. Assistant Minister Yen also believed in the emperor's methods. It was impossible for a first-rank official to have a traitor. Han Dong explained simply, "I didn't say that he was a traitor. I just said that someone was a traitor. Let's go. If everything goes smoothly, we should be able to capture this person in the Taiji Palace." The other party had been planning this for decades, and it was not something that could be done in a short period of time. If anything happens, Assistant Minister Yen, you just have to ensure the safety of the Grave Lord. What? They would fight in Taiji Palace. This absolutely won't do. The Emperor's condition has been deteriorating for the past few years. Any influence may lead to extremely serious consequences. If this is really the case, I must go back and report to the minister. Pa. Han Dong's right hand pressed firmly on Assistant Minister Yan's shoulder. His palm was still pressing the death jade. His Majesty isn't as weak as you think. The last time I saw him, I gave him a miraculous elixir that can repair his body. If we call for help, our purpose will be exposed. If he couldn't uproot it this time, it would be very difficult to find another opportunity. Once the threat is uprooted, whether it's the Emperor or us, we can all focus on the development of the Corpse Kingdom. Moreover, I will take care of the matter of uprooting the threat. Assistant Minister Yen, you only have to protect the Emperor and ensure that there are some unexpected situations. I'll tell you the truth. If it's a one-on-one battle, I can handle this Minister of War. My current goal is also very clear, which is to assist the Grave Lord and achieve his dream. As he spoke, the aura of a mutated demon was transmitted to Assistant Minister Yen through the contact of his palm. In an instant, Assistant Minister Yan's consciousness seemed to have been drawn into a whole new world. He even saw a few existences that he could not understand, accept, or look directly at. They were several times more terrifying than the Grave Lord, or even dozens of times more terrifying. This revelation also made Assistant Minister Yen truly understand that Han Dong was a foreigner. Many things that happened to Han Dong that did not conform to common sense could be explained. Alright. I'll leave everything to you. I'll assist you. Let's go. The two of them did not wait for Shintuyang and stepped into the palace first. Taiji Palace was also affected by the reality interference of the Grave Lord's domain and turned into a corpse palace. However, compared to last time, the entire corpse palace seemed to be full of vitality. Many black hairs grew from the leather floor. The pillars of the palace that were assembled from corpses were even more active. Many of the outstretched arms were waving wantonly. The corpse oil lamps placed between the skulls were also brighter than before. The above phenomenon also confirmed Han Dong's words. It was the white liquid he brought back from Moon Goddess Mountain that allowed the Grave Lord to return to the state he was in 100 years ago. The Emperor has really recovered a lot. This scene also made Assistant Minister Yen completely trust and obey Han Dong. The two of them knelt in front of the huge curtain and reported the recent progress in the research of corpse parasites according to the contents of the imperial document. During the report, accompanied by the sound of steel colliding and a wave of heat, the Minister of War led his subordinates to the front of the curtain. Just as Assistant Minister Yen said, although Shintuyang's personality was unyielding and fierce, he was absolutely loyal to the Emperor. When he looked at the curtain, Shintuyang's eyes were filled with reverence. At the same time, he did not state his purpose as soon as he arrived. Instead, He knelt in front of the curtain devoutly and quietly waited for Assistant Minister Yen to finish reporting the work of the secret department. I approve you to use the brand new corpse parasites on the experimental subject. I hope you can get better results. Yes, I will definitely get the best results and help the Emperor get through the last hurdle. The voice behind the curtain turned to the other side. Minister Shinto, I am very concerned about the document you submitted. You said that you have sufficient evidence in your hands to point out that a court official is plotting a rebellion and even affecting the entire plan of the Corpse Kingdom. Yes, I have received the exact information. The relevant information came from this subordinate of mine. She has all the evidence in her hands, including memory information. More importantly, the person who is plotting a rebellion is in Taiji Palace. Shinto Yang's last sentence was unusually loud. It immediately alerted the embroidered uniform guards in charge of the Imperial Army's work today. 4 black shadows immediately descended near the curtain, emitting a deadly aura. At the same time, next to Shinto Yang, the mysterious person who had covered her face the entire time also took off her hood. She revealed a well-maintained human face. It was alchemist Long Jing, who belonged to the Ministry of War, Chen Xining. She also took out the relevant evidence in her hands, including a zombie brain that was kept in a wooden box and covered in silver needles. The surface of the brain was emitting an extremely cold aura. This familiar cold aura made Han Dong frown. Chapter 1253. The brain in the wooden box was emitting cold air. It was the frozen bones Luo Gaocheng who had assisted Han Dong in going to the depths of the demon territory. He had even successfully obtained the moon water on Moon Goddess Mountain and assisted in the completion of the plan. The governor of the demon territory, Wang Xing, had promised to give Luo Gaocheng the identity of a hermit, allowing him to live freely in the Corpse Kingdom. He did not expect that when they met again, it would be in such a way. Moreover, Han Dong had a good impression of Luo Gaocheng. An ice attribute physique was rare and unique among zombies, forming a contrast with Shen Tuyang. If he could get better treatment and material support, he might even reach the level of a minister. Unfortunately, he had already been killed. The silver needles inserted into the brain, as well as a series of mechanical devices that maintained the brain's vitality, seemed to be able to extract the memories in the brain as evidence in court. The matter was already very obvious. The person who killed Frozen Bones and peeled out the brain was Chen Xining. Chen Xining's actions seemed to be a response to her initial desire to kill Frozen Death Bones. It wasn't due to the influence of the corpse goo. Chen Xining had wanted to kill this person from the very beginning, but her plan was disrupted by Han Dong. Your Majesty, this brain was taken from the 7th most wanted criminal of the Ministry of Justice, Frozen Bones, Luo Gaocheng. Through the transformation of the brain by the Ministry of Works, the memory can be presented to Your Majesty. The relevant memory is enough to prove the fact that the new secret officer, Han Dong, colluded with him. At the same time, Han Dong also secretly collected information about the 72 fiends in the barracks, trying to collude with more fugitives. The zombie who provided him with information about the fugitives is already under our control. If Your Majesty needs me, I can immediately bring him over. This incident even involves Governor Wang Xing in the barracks, as well as the matters in the depths of the demon territory. Your Majesty, please take a look at the memory in the brain, and then I will describe it to you one by one. Present it. The death aura condensed into the shape of an arm in the air, grabbing the wooden box in Chen Xining's hand and pulling it inside. However, there was a barrier in the curtain, and the situation inside could not be seen clearly. After a long while, the thick death aura continued to overflow from the bottom of the curtain, as if the Tomb Lord's anger continued to grow because he saw the memory in the brain. At the same time, a pressure field formed in the inner hall. Even Shinto Yang's lower body became a little unstable under this pressure. However, this pressure made Shintuyang smile as he looked at the curtain with a joyful expression. His Majesty's body seems to have recovered. However, a trace of doubt and displeasure flashed in Chen Sini's eyes. The Tomb Lord's slightly angry voice resounded throughout the inner palace. There is no problem with your memory. You just said that this matter also involves Governor Wang Xing. Do you have any evidence? Chen Xining pointed at her head. I am the proof. I believe that His Majesty also discovered my existence when he was browsing through the memories of frozen dead bones. When I noticed Han Dong's abnormal behavior, I decided to use my position to gain his trust. Subsequently, he cooperated with this person to carry out a series of secret operations related to rebellion in the demon region, other than the colluding with a fugitive that I mentioned just now. Han Dong even used the demon zombies as a medium to enter the depths of the demon territory to establish contact with the demons. Through a deal, he reached a secret cooperation with Wang Xing, and the content of the deal was the legs that Governor Wang valued the most. Tomb Lord, please directly pry into my brain memories to verify the above statement. Since you have come to see me today, I believe that Minister Shintu has verified the contents of your memory? Shintuyang, is what she said just now true? Your Majesty, Chen Fengshi's statement and the memory picture she showed me are not the slightest bit different or exaggerated. Although I have some personal grudges with Governor Wang, I did not lie about this matter. It has been confirmed that this person has the strange ability to remove corpse parasite. He can easily remove corpse parasites by touching the back of his head. He must have used this ability and his understanding of corpse parasites to sneak into the secret ministry. It seems that the internal audit method of the secret ministry also needs to be changed. In summary, this person is a major threat to the corpse kingdom. Please allow me to execute him. When Shintuyang said this, even the emotions of the embroidered uniform guards were stirred, and their killing intent was directed at Han Dong. There is no hurry. Since everyone has stepped into Taiji Palace, no one can leave without my permission. Chen Fengshi seems to have some crucial evidence in her hands. Tell me all of it. Your Majesty, Han Dong has been using his identity as a secret officer and work needs to go to the Earth Evil Hall and steal the body of the founding scholar, Du Zhijing. This is closely related to the floating corpse internal scripture that he practiced. On the same day, he used his relationship with Wang Xing to secretly go to the important Chain District. It seems that he has some ideas about the Chain fortifications. Once the rebels gather enough troops, it is very likely that they will use the convenience of the military camp to control the entire underground Chain District. They will use this as a bargaining chip to negotiate with Your Majesty. Things will become uncontrollable. At the same time, I hope that Your Majesty can investigate the secret ministry strictly. Assistant Minister Yen of the Secret Ministry once investigated Wang Shiheng's private residence because of the corpse parasite incident, but because of some research documents provided by Han Dong, he forgot about the important corpse parasite incident and even brought such a dangerous person into the secret ministry. This action is very suspicious. Of course, I also know that the secret officer's audit has to go through Your Majesty. However, Han Dong's identity and background are very problematic. He has a very strange ability of unknown origin. It is possible that he used some strange secret technique in the temperament test, or even a mysterious ability that does not belong to our world to pass the test. I just received a message from the Chain District. It is true. The evidence is conclusive. All of a sudden, the death aura condensed in the Taiji Palace turned into solid arms and surrounded Han Dong. The voice of the Tomb Lord came down from above in the form of pressure. Do you have anything else to say? Han Dong had nothing to say in the face of the situation. His eyes were wide and bloodshot. He stared at Chen Xining, who was not far away, as if he wanted to cut her into pieces. However, Chen Xining responded simply with a smile, as if she had done similar things many times. In that case, there is no need for Minister Shintu to do anything. Brocade guard, listen up. Arrest the criminal. The 4 brocade guards lurking in the inner hall moved at the same time. The weapons in their hands were already on the target's neck in an instant. Phew. My eyes are a little uncomfortable. If I had known, I wouldn't have cooperated with you. Han Dong rubbed his eyes and slowly got up. The embroidered uniform guard's sword wasn't with him, but hovered above Chen Xining's neck. This change in the situation made Shintu Yang completely stunned. Even Chen Xining, the protagonist, was puzzled. What was going on? Miss Chen, how is it? My acting is much better than yours, isn't it? It is also because you are an employee that I treated you so seriously. Otherwise, I would have killed you long ago. To be honest, your acting is really bad. You are clearly an employee, but you were at a disadvantage when dealing with frozen dead bones. Do you think I am an idiot? Also, your body is clearly a kind of dependent virtual body, but you still pretended to be controlled by the corpse goo. The moment I pulled out the corpse goo, your expression changed so stiffly that it almost broke my defense. Although fainting was the right choice, it was also more deliberate. There are also many areas where your acting is not good enough. I won't list them one by one. Speaking up to this point, Han Dong threw the prepared documents into the air. It came from the Ministry of Personnel's archives. It recorded Chen Xining's life in detail. It's just that I didn't expect you to be able to fool the other employees with such poor acting skills. Using a similar method to report a fellow employee, seeking an official position, and becoming Alchemist Long Jing in a short time. However, it is also very likely that some ability of yours is imperceptibly affecting the thinking of these employees. I can't really judge. Let me give you a word of advice. If you don't show your true strength now, I guarantee that you will die miserably. Chapter 1254. The reversal of the situation had long been within Han Dong's expectations. The reason why everything had gone so smoothly was because of the choice Han Dong had made on Mount Moon Goddess. It was a choice that could only be achieved with great courage and the support of his physical body. Coupled with a certain amount of luck, he had met a high-level existence who could intervene in the overall situation. It was the connection given by the high-level existence that allowed Han Dong to catch up with Chen Xining's progress and achieve the reversal in front of him. In this out-of-control world that revolved around the Tomb Lord, progress is almost equal to official position since there was no main plot setting. The promotion method could be cut in from the different systems of the imperial court according to one's own characteristics. For example, with the structure of his spine, his understanding of mechanical technology, and his ultimate brain that was dedicated to research, he could quickly be accepted by the Ministry of Works as a talent and be promoted step by step. The path that Han Dong chose for the secret department was also quite good. However, it was almost impossible to catch up with Chen Xining's progress. The doctor worked diligently for more than 100 days and made all kinds of great contributions, but he was only promoted to a secondary grade 4 workshop manager. Chen Xining used despicable means to promote Long Jing, who was already a primary grade 3. The so-called despicable means was reporting. When Han Dong met the Tomb Lord for the first time, he pointed out that there was a problem that needed to be solved and handed him a letter. Chen Xining's name was written on it, and it was accompanied by a silver dragon logo. As the Tomb Lord pulled out the relevant files, just as Han Dong guessed, Chen Xining's promotion method was to report his teammates and other Black Tower employees who came here. Now, Chen Xining was one step away from becoming a second-grade official, which was also the standard condition to meet the Emperor. This step required him to make a great enough contribution and obtain the personal recognition of the Tomb Lord. At this moment, Han Dong, an employee who had just arrived at the Corpse Kingdom, happened to appear. Chen Xining also took the opportunity to place the opportunity of promotion on Han Dong. As he needed to make a great enough contribution, Han Dong had to become a great enough threat. Here, he needed Chen Xining to help him and give him a series of help to turn Han Dong into a black zombie and carry out a series of operations in the demon territory. Let Han Dong become an existence that could threaten the essence of the corpse kingdom. Then, through the Minister of War, Shen Tuyang, he could report to the Emperor. This way, he could make a great contribution and be promoted to the second grade. Taiji Palace, Han Dong said coldly, "That's right. If I'm not mistaken, the Wu Tassin race you belong to was born incomplete. I can see that your main body is very dependent on your physical body. This is all thanks to your willingness to demonstrate it to me back in Moonlight City. Even though I don't really understand the essence of your body, the process of you leaving your body is extremely unnatural. It's similar to a spiritual body that's stuck to your body the entire time and has to be slowly peeled off. As such, I'm guessing that other than leveling up, your race also has a very important mission, which is to obtain a body that is perfectly compatible with you, has great potential, and can support your body's perfection. When you came to Tombstone as an employee, you accidentally found the perfect target. His physique was far stronger than that of zombies of the same level. It had reached the perfect body of a mythical body, as well as releasing the death energy that can cause the world to go out of control. Furthermore, it was a very important point. Due to special reasons, such a perfect vessel was in a weakened state where it was easy to be possessed. Furthermore, it had been like this for a long time, and at the same time, it was imprisoned on the throne. Your final goal was the Tomb Lord. This was also the fundamental reason why you spared no effort to be promoted quickly in order to obtain the right to meet the Emperor. My deduction should be correct. While Han Dong was speaking, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. Assistant Minister Yen quickly came to the front of the curtain and released waves of dark purple corpse energy. Through the operation of the secret scripture of heaven's evolution, he constructed a psychedelic defensive barrier to ensure the safety of the Tomb Lord. He had a faint premonition that even if the Imperial bodyguards and the Minister of War were here and had already controlled the target, this matter would not end so easily. Facing the sudden reversal and the absolute predicament that Han Dong had set for her, Chen Xining did not get too angry or lose control. Instead, she showed a sense of ease that made Han Dong very uncomfortable. Ha ha! Your head is indeed very special. Whether it's the vortex eye or the magnetic field, they can't affect it. There were a few times when I wanted to cut open your head to see what was inside. It's a pity that your body is not here, or else I would change my target and choose to use your body as a vessel. I have a question that I don't understand. How did you surpass me in terms of progress and obtain the Tomb Lord's trust in advance? Even if you exposed some secrets during the secret officer assessment, it shouldn't be enough to make you the favorite of the Tomb Lord, right? Han Dong shook his head. I'm sorry, I can't answer this question. Just take it that I'm better in terms of luck. After all, luck is also a part of one's strength. Luck. It's no wonder, some of the things I do will indeed consume this illusory attribute. Since you've already seen through it, why didn't you kill me directly in the Goblin domain or the military camp? Why did you have to go through so much trouble and set up such a huge trap to lure me into it? Don't tell me you're trying to humiliate me to show off your abilities? Han Dong hurriedly waved his hand and replied with a smile, We're all interns, not some ordinary participants of fate. Although your acting is clumsy, your strength should still be very strong. You also have to be worthy of such a huge formation, only then can I have the confidence to eradicate you. You have to be eradicated, as long as you're alive, I'll be in trouble. Hearing this, Chen Xining slowly lowered her head, but her smile did not disappear. Do you still remember our agreement that you'll tell me your real name when we return to the Black Tower? Now it seems that only one of us can return safely. Then I'll tell you in advance. I come from Higher World, Other World, and my name is Yubo Raifi. Also, you're wrong about one thing. What is it? I'm not just an intern. As soon as she said this, Han Dong's expression changed drastically, and at the same time, he felt a very strange sense of danger. It was not coming from his body, but from the depths of his soul. All of a sudden, with a smile on her face, Chen Xining ignored the embroidered uniform guards beside her, and actually reached out towards the curtain, wanting to launch some kind of attack on the Emperor. There was clearly something wrong with this method. No, don't kill her. Han Dong hurriedly took out the death jade from his bosom, and asked the embroidered uniform guards not to kill her. Unfortunately, his warning was a step too late. The embroidered uniform guards had already made their move the moment she revealed her killing intent. They would not allow such a direct threat to the Emperor to happen. All kinds of weapons slashed across her body, and Chen Xining, who was similar to a human female but had been mechanically modified, was immediately cut into pieces by the weapons, and was even turned into dust by one of the embroidered uniform guards. However, a wisp of ghost-like substance was not affected at all, and quickly attached itself to the body of an embroidered uniform guard. An official employee. This is a bit troublesome. Chapter 1255. Official employee recognized by the Black Tower. In addition to the right to participate in regular fate events, they could go to the central hub, the Black Tower, and choose to accept missions issued by the Black Tower to replace fate events. In addition to the regular fate points reward, there were often more additional rewards. At the same time, it could also improve performance and lay the foundation for future promotions. The promotion of one's position in the Black Tower meant that one would obtain more authority in the multiverse. The higher the authority, the greater the depth an individual could reach. To become an official employee from an apprentice, one had to obtain an excellent evaluation in a total of 3 evaluations. Han Dong had already obtained 2 excellent evaluations due to the Pennywise incident and the capture of the White Giant's mother in Prometheus. He only needed 1 more to become an official employee. From this, it could be seen that becoming an official employee was quite difficult. The opponent in front of him was an official employee. Even if Han Dong had set up such a trap, he still couldn't completely relax. Assistant Minister Yen, just ensure His Majesty's safety. I'll take care of the situation here. Okay. Although Han Dong was giving orders to Yen Bowen, but the magic eye in between his eyebrows was fixed on the position of Chen Xining's corpse. A wisp of ghostly substance that seemed to have been affected by electromagnetic interference had already darted out from the corpse, unharmed by the embroidered uniform guards' attacks. Disperse, Han Dong had just said 2 words. The ghost's body actually scattered in the air, turning into a sticky substance that landed on the 4 embroidered uniform guard. Wubo Ruifei had used the identity of a necromancer to live in the corpse nation and had studied no less than 500 zombie corpses, including 20 black zombies. She had secretly simulated the control of zombies long ago, and her research on zombies had reached a very deep level. She could completely control zombies that she had physical contact with in a short period of time. When the dust landed on the embroidered uniform guards, they only felt their brains fill with strong electromagnetic interference, and their consciousness was forcibly separated from their bodies. At the same time, there were still intact talismans in the shredded clothes of Chen Xining's corpse. Yellow talismans were immediately stuck on the foreheads of the embroidered uniform guards, working together to achieve control. Even the tomb lord behind the curtain frowned at the speed of the invasion. These were the Imperial Guards personally appointed by the Grave Lord. They had to go through layers upon layers of selection and extremely cruel loyalty tests to be used by the Grave Lord. Their martial prowess and loyalty were at the peak of the imperial court, but they were all controlled in just a few seconds. Just as everyone was preparing to deal with the controlled embroidered uniform guards, the strange thing was, the embroidered uniform guards with talismans on their foreheads did not attack Han Dong or the Tomb Lord behind the curtain. Instead, he immediately retreated to the four corners of Taiji Palace. When they arrived at their respective corners, a layer of Yin flames immediately appeared on the surface of their bodies. The Yin-colored flame represented the burning of the original corpse energy in the body. It was equivalent to directly consuming the Niden. Once the Niden was burned out, the individual would die. Such a price would naturally result in an increase in energy by several times. Using the energy from the burning Dantian and using the four of them as nodes, he created a strange magnetic field that completely sealed off the Taiji Palace. In the meantime, sounds of electromagnetic interference came from all around. These carefully selected Imperial guards should be able to hold on for more than half an hour. I didn't expect that I would stumble on luck. If I'm not wrong, you should have obtained some kind of opportunity during those days when you were lost on Moon Goddess Mountain, right? You seem to have brought back some kind of strange item that allowed the Tomb Lord's body to recover. This makes it very difficult for me. I originally calculated the time. As long as I sent you, the traitor, to the Imperial prison, I could take the opportunity to become an assistant minister of the Ministry of War and get the opportunity to be alone with the Tomb Lord. Since it has developed into the worst situation in the plan, I can only adopt a worse response plan. Although it's not good enough, it's still enough to kill you. Han Dong's demon, I faintly spied some kind of dust substance in the shadow of Taiji Palace. Minister Shentu, hurry up and enter His Majesty's curtain. You have checked her memory. You may have been marked by the other party and can easily be completely controlled. Unexpectedly, the bad-tempered Minister of War did not listen to Han Dong's advice at all. Things had developed like this because of him. If he had not believed Chen Xining's words, he would not have brought her to Taiji Palace and caused such a dangerous incident that could threaten the Emperor. His bad-tempered and loyal character drove him to want to make up for his mistakes and execute the real traitor on the spot. Layers of heat waves spread out, and there was even a layer of flames covering the surface of his body to protect him from being invaded. Shintu Yang used his aura to sense the location of the target. Sure enough, Han Dong had guessed correctly. Due to the internal relationship of the Ministry of War, Shintu Yang had contact with Chen Xinran many times and even personally checked her brain memory. Some kind of mark had been branded in Shintu Yang's brain. When she met the Emperor today, she also mentioned that she wanted the Tomb Lord to check her memory. Once she was checked, she would also be marked so that it would be easier for her to take over his body in the future. Unfortunately, the Tomb Lord was already vigilant and was just cooperating with Han Dong today. Damn it! It was too late to stop it, and he did not know how to stop it. A kind of dust between reality and illusion had adhered to the surface of Shintu Yang's body. It was not affected by the high temperature and flames of the corpse at all. It even ignored the zombie's skin and black iron shell and invaded his body. Han Dong also noticed that the adhesion here was very similar to the scene shown to him before. This is the true meaning of possession. Just now, it was only through the influence of the spirit and the talisman to indirectly control the embroidered uniform guards and use them to seal off Taiji Palace. Has it completely given up on controlling the Emperor and intends to use Shintu Yang's body to fight to the death with me? Even if Shintu Yang's consciousness was firm, driven by an irresistible force, he was immediately sent to the grayish-black quarantine zone. About 10 seconds, a grayish-black substance mixed in between his pupils, like grains of dust falling on the surface of his eyeballs. The voice coming out of Shintu Yang's mouth had been replaced by a female voice similar to electromagnetic interference. What a tenacious consciousness to be able to resist for 10 seconds. Sigh. There is no other way but to use this shell. In terms of priority, Shen Tuyang is ranked fourth by me. There are still a few powerhouses in the imperial court with decent bodies. For example, the Grand Scholar Du that Han Dong stole away. This kind of long-term attachment is very troublesome. I can only wait until I kill you and return to the tower to spend some points to remove the shell. Unfortunately, I wasted several years of my precious time and such a suitable shell. Shen Tuyang's body is too big. I have to adjust it a bit. As he spoke, a grayish-black ghostly substance adhered to the surface of Shen Tuyang's body. Immediately afterwards, crack, a sound similar to steel being squeezed spread through the inner hall. Shen Tuyang's incomparably sturdy body and the black iron embedded in the surface of his body were actually squeezed inwards by the ghostly substance. It was similar to the collapse of matter. His head was severely deformed in this process of compression, and his facial features were all squeezed together. His originally 3-meter-tall body had been compressed to the size of an ordinary woman, the size of Chen Xining. Not only did it not affect his movements, it actually emitted an even more intense heat. Something even more exaggerated happened. Wubo Ruifei took down the 2 heavy weapons that Shen Tuyang had painstakingly forged, his face full of disgust. Such a good material turned into this kind of scrap metal, what a waste, as he spoke. The weapons were also wrapped in ghostly substance. What happened next left everyone dumbfounded. Under the effect of the ghostly substance, these weapons were actually disassembled and reassembled at the atomic level. At the same time, the distance between the atoms was compressed, creating a perfect weapon suitable for a woman's body. It can actually disassemble the atoms of inorganic matter. What kind of creature is this? Chun-Li, assist me. Nicole, prepare to fuse deeply with me. Chapter 1256. Deep Imitation. It could be seen as the fusion of the host's and the anomaly's abilities. Han Dong could choose the most suitable imitation based on the current enemy's attributes and environment. This would always give Han Dong an advantage. Ghost, Chun-Li basic, agility, weight reduction, height increase, blade weapon proficiency, ability bestowal, sad face 1, linear manipulation, increase control over any linear matter, including hair, tentacles, etc. 2. Ghost form, can switch between physical and ghost form. Ghost form can pass through most inorganic matter, can hide oneself in an environment with dense energy, and gain a huge amount of HP regeneration. Demon Togu basic. Strength, defense, ability bestowal, sad face 1. Enjoy pain. 50% to 90% of pain from any source will be converted into pleasure. The higher the pleasure value, the greater the increase in pleasure value. At the same time, the damage dealt by an individual will be transmitted to the target by 300% of the pain value, which cannot be offset. 2. Nails and chains. Can gain part of Hellmonk's abilities. Deep 1 Nicole, basic, hybrid demonic nature tentacle manipulation, ability bestowal, sad face 1. Deep 1 can use related hybrid demonic secret technique. At the same time, when an individual appears as a Deep 1, through direct or indirect contact with sight, hearing, touch, etc., it will pollute other species, causing their consciousness to quickly degenerate. 2. Tentacle isomerization. Octopus, through isomerization, the tentacles will gain strength, crushing, and absorption characteristics, at the same time, can use the tentacles to perform related secret technique. His current opponent, Yubo Ruifei, came from a world that Han Dong had never heard of before, Otherworld. His life form was also hard to deconstruct with the mystic eye. From the previous situation, it could be seen that he was similar to a specter's body, able to scatter and gather. When he was attacked by the 4 Imperial secret guards of different attributes, his body was destroyed, but his body was unharmed. In this situation, simply increasing his damage was useless. Because of this, Han Dong didn't choose Chun-Li to gain the most power. Instead, he chose Nicole. Han Dong had an answer in his mind. To truly defeat this official employee, he could only rely on a single characteristic, a characteristic that even the Black Tower feared: hybrid demonic. Inside the prison, a gray tentacle shot out from the wall of the cell and connected to the back of Nicole's head. It was relative. Han Dong's consciousness also sank into the deep sea at this moment, arriving at a majestic palace that was in a state of deep sleep. Waves of powerful energy poured into Han Dong's body as he stepped into the forbidden area. 1. Nourished by the wisps of seawater, the decayed bodies of the zombies became full of vitality. Even their inner cores floated in the seawater, allowing them to perform better cultivation technique. 2. 8 octopus tentacles, connected to the central nervous system, grew out from the spine. These tentacles could be regarded as part of Han Dong's body, even higher than the status of his hands and feet. 3. Gills appeared on the cheeks, and the structure of the eyes also changed. The pupils became long and flat, and at the same time, a kind of inner membrane structure was developed in the eyelid. 4. During this series of changes, the black hair was gradually dyed pink. When it was completely dyed pink, it meant that the imitation was complete. Han Dong opened his eyes, and his vision returned to Taiji Palace. It seemed like a long process, but in reality, only a second had passed. Whether it was Assistant Minister Yen, who had a good relationship with Han Dong, or the Tomb Lord behind the curtain, or his current opponent Wubo Ruifei, who had taken over Shintu Yang's body. All three were shocked by Han Dong's transformation. Wubo Ruifei asked, puzzled. He temporarily couldn't find any relevant information in his memory palace. What kind of species are you? Which world did you come from? Han Dong didn't answer the question. Instead, he stared at a strand of black hair floating in the darkness and sent a voice transmission. Chun-Li, try not to use direct physical attack. Use the characteristics of Ghost and the saber that Big Brother Headless gave you. Remember, the target isn't an entity that you see with your eyes, but something that resides in its body. Got it. The black hair floated, and it hid in the gloomy environment of Taiji Palace. Only then did he slowly turn his deep-sea fish-like eyes to the target and answer the other party's question. I'm sorry, but I have to keep my origins a secret for now. You might get an answer when you're about to die. Oh! At this moment, Wubo Ruifei felt that something wasn't right. A strange feeling that shouldn't exist appeared in his throat. When his finger reached into his mouth, he pulled out a strand of seaweed. Moreover, this strand of seaweed was shockingly long. It was pulled out of his mouth by more than 2 meters. What was even more ridiculous was that it was attached to a shellfish and a dead deep-sea fish. Something that shouldn't exist had suddenly appeared in his body. This gave Wubo Ruifei a strange feeling. At the same time, he realized something. Whoosh! He decisively blinded the eye that came with his body. Clap, clap, clap. Han Dong applauded and praised. Sharp thinking and decisive decision. Wubo Ruifei didn't care about the visual system that came with his body. His vortex eye was more useful. Crack, 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 the black iron covered his face and spun clockwise like a vortex. The blinded eyes and other facial organs all disappeared in this twisting process. Finally, a strange eyeball appeared in the middle of the vortex. The eye also had the same vortex shape as the face, as if the rotation of the face was coordinating with the formation of the eyeball. Vortex eye allowed Wubo Ruifei to observe the current world with a high-dimensional vision. He could see the essence of things, filter out unnecessary information, and even use a kind of eye power to affect reality. However, he still couldn't completely filter out the pollution. Staring at it for a long time still made him uncomfortable. Your essence is indeed special. It seems that I have to kill you in a short period of time. When I return to the Black Tower, I'll spend some points to deal with this strange mental influence. Come. Let me see how special your vortex eye is. It just so happens that I have an old enemy with particularly powerful eyes. I can use you as a warm-up. Your eyes shouldn't be better than his, right? At the same time, in another world, Eugene was receiving a new human shell in the Antarctic. Perhaps due to the adaptability of the shell, he suddenly sneezed and thought of a guy he hated. Facing the appearance of the vortex eye, Han Dong wasn't afraid at all. He took off the clothes on his upper body and took the initiative to reveal his smooth and delicate upper torso with slightly exposed abs. As he spread out his arms, the 8 octopus tentacles swayed wildly behind him. He leaned towards his opponent with this posture. However, a feeling similar to being locked and squeezed by a vortex immediately took effect on his entire body. Wubo Ruifei was able to restrict the movements of others with just his gaze. In the blink of an eye, a sword with a temperature of over 1,000 degrees slashed horizontally. However, Han Dong's body reacted at the same time. He spun at high speed in the direction of the sword's slash, perfectly dissipated the force. At the same time, he used the high-speed rotation of his body to fling out the octopus tentacles on his back. Asterisk smack. Asterisk an exceptionally loud smack resounded in Taiji Palace. This was the first time they exchanged blows. Wubo Ruifei was actually pushed back more than 10 meters while occupying the body of the Minister of War. After dispelling the sword's slash, Han Dong landed firmly on the ground in an extremely soft posture. He commented with a smile, as expected, Nicole's attributes are very compatible with the Floating Corpse Sutra. Chapter 1257. So powerful. Is this the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra? Not only that, but it also contains Mr. Han's own abilities and combat experience. Assistant Minister Yen was stunned by Han Dong's performance at the beginning of the battle. A few seconds ago, he was still worried that something would happen to Han Dong. After all, when he approached, a strange black vortex acted on Han Dong's body, restraining and restricting his movements. He did not expect Han Dong to be able to break free at the critical moment and use the floating corpse's ability to completely avoid damage and counterattack. At this moment, a skull condensed from death aura floated over, and Assistant Minister Yen, who was immersed in the battle, was startled. He almost smashed the skull into pieces. Only then did he realize that this skull was the Tomb Lord's way of communicating with the outside world. Your Majesty, what is it? Assistant Minister Yen, come in. I have something important to tell you. Yes, Your Majesty. But I have to stand guard outside and ensure that the traitors can't get close to the curtain. I have to ensure that Your Majesty is not disturbed. If they kill Han Dong and attack us from the front, will you be able to defend yourself? This question immediately left Assistant Minister Yen speechless. I will do my best to protect Your Majesty. Only if you come in can you really help me. Yes, Your Majesty. Assistant Minister Yen circulated the Celestial Evolution Sutra. His stiff body turned into an ethereal state and passed through the curtain. When Assistant Minister Yen saw the Tomb Lord covered in silver needles and connected to catheters again after a few months, he immediately showed a joyful expression. Your Majesty, your condition. The white liquid that came from the Black Tower's executive used to create the world cooperated with Han Dong's comprehensive treatment of his body. After 2 days of absorption, the Tomb Lord recovered to the state he was in when he first sat on the throne hundreds of years ago. My condition is quite good. This is all thanks to Secretary Han's help. Next, I have a very important task for you. I'm afraid you're the only one in the entire palace who can do it. I've always thought highly of you, Assistant Minister Yen. Your Majesty, please tell me. I will do my best. Because of my aura, the Taiji Palace has become a corpse palace that belongs to me alone. I can sense everything that happens here through the aura of death. Even though Secretary Han has made a good start, it does not mean that this advantage will last forever. His opponent's level was higher than his. That attack just now was just a test. The reason why secret official Han lured the traitors to Taiji Palace was because he wanted my help to eliminate the culprit. Could it be that Your Majesty wants to fight personally? Please reconsider, Your Majesty. Once you leave the Dragon Throne, the Corpse Empire will stop operating. If you want to reconnect it, you will have to pay a huge price. Before the great plan is realized, I can't leave this seat. However, you can move freely. Your Sky Spill secret scripture has been cultivated to a very deep level, comparable to the senile Minister Lei. The adaptability of the Celestial Evolution Secret Manual should allow your body to withstand the invasion of the Death Aura for a period of time. Of course, the Shang-Chi's invasive nature is too strong, and it may leave permanent injuries after the event. You may even have to spend the rest of your life in a coffin. I will give you a chance to choose. From the day I crawled out of the coffin, my corpse belongs to Your Majesty. To be able to receive the Shang-Chi from Your Majesty is your humble servant's greatest honor. To be able to assist Your Majesty in eliminating the traitors that threaten the Corpse Empire is the most glorious moment of your humble servant's life. There is no time to lose, Your Majesty. You must eliminate the traitors. After he finished speaking, Assistant Minister Yen had already taken off his mask, revealing a young and handsome face, as well as a head of sky blue hair that had formed due to his cultivation of the Sky Spill secret manual. Whoosh! The silver needle pierced 3 inches into the back of Assistant Minister Yan's head. The tail was connected by a tube. The other end was connected to the other silver needle that had been inserted into the Grave Lord's forehead. As the Shang-Chi slowly poured in, black tendons began to appear on Assistant Minister Yan's face, and his skin began to fall off in chunks. A large amount of his flesh was also rapidly rotting. These signs indicated that the Shang-Chi had damaged his body. However, the entire process was progressing smoothly. Outside the curtain, a battle between different creatures from different worlds was taking place. Wubo Ruifei, who had been hit by the tentacles, did not fall, nor was he sent flying. Instead, he took 10 steps back, as if he was unscathed. There wasn't even any aggravation of contamination. Direct contact should be more effective than visual contact, but in reality, it was useless. I clearly repelled her, but I didn't touch her body. This is... Han Dong suddenly recalled the first time he had met her, when they had gone to the demon realm to capture frozen death bones. Although she had been acting back then, in order to make it more realistic, she had also used the otherworldly abilities that belonged to her as an employee of the Black Tower. She had constructed a soul shell that covered her entire body, in the image of an ancient general, and could coordinate with her actions to carry out various attacks. Of course, what she had shown before was only a weakened version. At this moment, seizing the opportunity when her opponent's attention was diverted, Chun-Li appeared. It was important to note that the Terror of Death, an epic weapon that originally had the appearance of a katana, had been slowly changing its form according to the characteristics of the main body after recognizing Chun-Li as its master. Recently, it had slowly turned into Chun-Li's most convenient kitchen knife. Her body turned into a black shadow, and she quickly shot out from the darkness. Swift and fatal. A hit. The resentment that covered the surface of the blade was released wildly when it struck the target, producing an effect similar to the wailing of 100 ghosts. Chun-Li, quickly dodge. Don't attack for now. However, this hit didn't receive any praise. Instead, it was Han Dong's loud reminder. Chun-Li focused her eyes and realized that the blade hadn't hit at all. About 10 centimeters away from the target, the blade stopped in midair, as if it had hit an invisible substance. Although a large amount of resentment was released during the slash, it only cut a depth of 5 centimeters. It couldn't touch flesh at all. An extremely dense and sticky invisible substance enveloped Wubo Ruifei's body, making it extremely difficult to break through. Chun-Li immediately retracted her hand and returned the way she had come. Unexpectedly, a vortex suddenly acted on her body, greatly slowing her down. Whoosh! The invisible blade flashed. Chun-Li's waist was cut in half even under the protection of her black hair. A large amount of black hair slid out from the wound. Chun-Li used the characteristics of a ghost to break free of the restraints and fled back into the darkness, temporarily hiding. Strange. That strike just now should have cut her in half. Was it you who was affecting me? So you also know eye techniques? Wubo Ruifei looked at Han Dong in surprise. He discovered that there was a different eye on Han Dong's forehead. Drops of blood were flowing out of the eye socket. This was the side effect of affecting the target with the little magic eye. However, as the magic eye fully opened, the invisible substance enveloping Wubo Ruifei was seen clearly. It was a mass of spirit-like substance, currently in the shape of a slime. When Chun-Li had tried to escape earlier, this mass of substance had immediately grown an arm holding a sword, almost cutting Chun-Li in half. The vortex can filter out a large portion of the corruption, and the spirit-like substance enveloping the body can avoid direct contact, as expected of an official employee. This way, to completely corrupt her, I'll need to fight for at least an hour, or even more than 2 hours. Why isn't the Grave Lord using his domain to assist me? It'll be very troublesome if this continues. Just as Han Dong realized that the situation wasn't good, the curtain behind him was suddenly pulled open. Death aura surged out like a tide, and the corpses in the inner hall seemed to be fully activated. The limbs that formed the pillars began to move wildly, and the heads that formed the walls began to make all sorts of exaggerated expressions. It wasn't the Grave Lord's true body that walked out. It was Assistant Minister Yen. Black protruding blood vessels covered his entire body, and he slowly dragged his body over like a walking corpse. Chapter 1258. The silver needle inserted into the back of Assistant Minister Yan's head was twice the size of a normal silver needle. At the same time, the needle emitted a death aura that didn't belong to him. Oh? The Tomb Lord gave me a better answer than I expected, but Assistant Minister Yen suffered a great loss. Let's hope he can hold on. The reason why Han Dong had set up such a big plan and lured the target to Taiji Palace was because of the powerful Black Tower. It was precisely because the opponent might be a powerful Black Tower employee that Han Dong, who hadn't brought all of his destiny equipment with him, wasn't confident in eliminating him alone. The chips of the eradication plan had to be placed on the Tomb Lord. Of course, because of the Tomb Lord's special state, he couldn't leave the Dragon Throne. What Han Dong wanted wasn't the Tomb Lord's personal help, but the domain suppression of the mythical body. No matter what the opponent's attributes were or how special they were, the difference in level was insurmountable and would be limited by the mythical domain. Once weakened, the domain would devour them. Unexpectedly, at such a critical moment, Assistant Minister Yen, who was used as a tool by Han Dong, would play a crucial role. This way, the battle should end in a short time. He didn't care about Wubo Ruifei in front of him. Han Dong, who was in the middle of the battle, turned around and knelt on one knee. Thank you, Tomb Lord. Such a great threat has appeared in the Corpse Kingdom. It's my duty to eliminate him. I should thank you. Otherwise, there might have been a big problem at the last moment. Assistant Minister Yan's body can hold on for a while. Let me kill the enemy with you. Good. Han Dong was naturally very happy, but Wubo Ruifei's expression became extremely ugly. However, he didn't intend to run away. Moving through the body of a black zombie, even if the relevant attributes are transferred, the overall strength will be suppressed to the level of T-gate opening. It's just killing one more black zombie with death aura. I should be able to finish it in half an hour. The main target became the Kutum Lord's avatar. Although the avatar was powerful, it wasn't stable. Once it received a huge impact or excessive damage, the body would collapse. At the same time, she had to avoid being attacked from both sides. Although her nature was very special, Han Dong's corruption could cause damage. A strange talisman was slowly pulled out from the center of the vortex. Before Han Dong could analyze the characteristics of the talisman paper began to tremble. The ghostly substance covering Wubwa Ruifei's body condensed into an arm that could extend infinitely. It grabbed the talisman and quickly stuck it to Han Dong. You plan to control me by sticking to me? The moment he saw the talisman, Han Dong subconsciously thought that the talisman was aimed at the head. It was just like how he had controlled the embroidered uniform guard. Once he attached himself to them, he could seal their movements, interfere with their consciousness, or even destroy their brains. However, the direction of the talisman paper was a little strange. It was slightly above Han Dong's height. Above, the speed of the ghost's arm was similar to Chun-Li's full speed. It quickly positioned the talisman about 2 meters above Han Dong. Wubwa Rafi formed a seal with one hand as he whispered, "Don't worry." Wu Tan Divine's seal number 73 is Sky Bell, a strange arcane activation. Using the talisman paper as a medium, a large bell with a diameter of 5 meters was formed. It directly covered Han Dong at the bottom. When the bell landed, the ground it covered was sealed as well. There was no way to escape through the ground. The surface of the bell was surrounded by unknown scriptures, completely locking Han Dong within. If the bound tried to destroy the bell from the inside, the bell would produce an extremely loud bell sound, destroying the bound's eardrums and severely affecting their thinking. I'll seal this troublesome fellow for now. First, deal with your incarnation, Grave Lord. What a pity if this kid didn't mess things up. I could perfectly seize your mythical body. Facing Wubwa's provocation, the Grave Lord didn't respond. He only dragged his temporary body slowly. It's just a temporary body. Once it suffers enough damage, it will self-destruct. The ghostly substance covering Wubwa Rafi's body condensed into an angry Buddha statue. In its hand was a copper coin sword that specialized in slaying evil. The Buddha statue could cooperate with his main body to attack. It wasn't just a simple transformation. This ghostly shell form could even inherit some attribute. When the angry Buddha statue was formed, it even produced a masculine aura that specialized in countering otherworldly items. Before the Grave Lord could completely take over his temporary body, he quickly got close to the attack range. The high-temperature sword covered in flames and the copper coin sword in the Buddha statue's hand slashed out at the same time. Ding! An extremely loud sound of metal clashing was heard. At the same time, a circular shockwave spread out from the location of the attack. The oil lamps around the Taiji Palace were almost blown out. It was clear how powerful the attack was. What? Wubwa Rafi only felt that his arm was in trouble. Drops of hot molten iron flowed out from between his thumb and forefinger. Hard. It was unbelievably hard. The sheer toughness of his body made it so that her sword couldn't hurt him at all. Impossible. Ghostly substance gushed out of Wubwa Rafi's body. The angry Buddha statue condensed a total of 18 arms. Each arm was holding a demon-subduing weapon. Ding ding ding. Continuous clashing sounds echoed in the inner palace. No matter how she attacked, she couldn't break through the hard object in front of her. It was already beyond her comprehension. At this time, the Grave Lord's incarnation suddenly attacked. Strands of death aura floating in the inner palace condensed into his right fist. He blocked the opponent's continuous attacks and forcefully punched out. Ka! The ghostly shell was shattered by this punch. Wubwa Rafi's body was directly sent flying. At the same time, a rare sense of fear appeared in her heart. She planned to use this chance to escape from the Imperial Palace and the Corpse Country. She planned to use the vast fiend domain to make further plans. However, before she even flew 3 meters, she felt like she was falling into water. Wubor Raffi's flying body was actually caught by a layer of water. At the same time, 8 slippery tentacles covered in suction cups wrapped around her body and tightly bound her in the air. How is this possible? How did you escape? Wubor Raffi hurriedly glanced at the nearby sky bell powered by talismans, completely unable to understand why Han Dong would appear here. Nothing is impossible. You haven't heard of the Void's secret technique, right? I didn't expect the Grave Lord to be so strong. I don't need to waste any effort. After saying this, the fist covered in black veins was already pressed against her stomach. Facing an unprepared enemy bound in the air by the tentacles, the Grave Lord personally used an ancient fist technique. Boom, 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 boom. Every punch would destroy a part of the black iron body. At the same time, the death aura gathered in the fist began to invade, causing damage to Wubor Raffi's body. It was as if countless skulls were tearing at her ghostly body. Bung! The final punch landed on the center of her chest. Her body was completely shattered. A series of ghostly matter that had been torn apart tried to escape. As long as a single ghostly matter escaped, Wubor Raffi would be able to rely on her own body to be reborn. After consuming large amounts of medicine and cultivating, she would be able to slowly regrow a new body. Want to run? Domain recovery. The corpse parts that filled the primal Chaos Palace began to recover. These were the materialized domain that the Grave Lord had accumulated over the hundreds of years of constantly releasing death aura. Like a net, it trapped Wubor Raffi, who was trying to escape, and continued to compress. In the end, it was compressed into a true corpse coffin in the air, weighing at least a few hundred tons. Boom! The coffin fell, and a loud sound echoed throughout the palace. The entire primal Chaos Palace was violently shaking, and the entire Imperial City could feel the tremors. Removal complete. Strong. Han Dong's eyes widened as he hurriedly gave a thumbs up. Chapter 1259. The moment the corpse coffin was formed, the silver needle inserted into the back of Assistant Minister Yan's head was immediately removed, and the curtain was retracted. The black blood vessels that covered his body gradually faded away. Although it didn't last more than 5 minutes, Assistant Minister Yan was still in a terrible state. A large amount of flesh was falling off from his body, a sign of severe overuse of his body. With such a huge commotion in Taiji Palace, a large number of palace personnel immediately rushed over, including the imperial physicians. Quickly bring Assistant Minister Yan to the corpse palace for treatment. If necessary, use the highest grade corpse oil. Make sure he stays alive and doesn't leave any side effect. Everyone else, leave Taiji Palace. The matter here has been resolved. I still have something to discuss with Special Envoy Han. Yes. The officials stared at this unfamiliar Special Envoy and looked at each other, but they could only obey the order and quickly leave. As Assistant Minister Yan was taken away, Han Dong was the only visitor left in Taiji Palace. Of course, Chun-Li, who was the host, was also here. She stood in a corner with her back facing the wall. She had fallen into a state of seclusion because she didn't contribute in the battle. She slashed at the golden brick walls of Taiji Palace. Chun-Li, come back. Our opponent this time is an official employee. Her intrinsic attributes are something we have never seen before. Even a mythical expert like the Tomb Lord can't find a way to kill her directly. They can only slowly eliminate her through a domain seal. I want to go for the trial again. Don't, you're already very strong. The upcoming London game will require your strength. When the time comes, you won't encounter such a difficult opponent. There will definitely be a chance for you to perform. Come back quickly. Tomb Lord, how should we deal with this? Han Dong reached out and patted the corpse coffin in front of him. The coffin is filled with a high concentration of death aura. In at most half a day, she will be completely annihilated. I advise you to give up on the idea of studying her. From her ability to influence the embroidered uniform guards, even if a trace of her body escapes, she can use the body of the possessor to slowly recover. You can't give her such a chance. Haha, I'm just asking. Han Dong naturally wanted to study such a strange life form. Considering that Wu Bo Ruifei wasn't completely dead, Han Dong hurriedly mentioned something. Tomb Monarch, I went to the Chain region yesterday to get a basic understanding of the situation there. I am confident that I can sever the chains within a week. I wonder how the Tomb Lord is progressing? Can the time of the world stripping match? Is 1 week enough? It was perfect. Because I've fully absorbed the white liquid you brought back, I've recovered to my peak state. Now is the best time to peel off the world and ascend. The faster you do it, the better. If you can really do it, I will fulfill my promise and give you a part of the world. Han Dong asked tentatively. Is it possible to separate Wu Bo Ruifei's eyeball, which is the eye in the form of a whirlpool, and combine it with my eyeball? It will help me sever the chains and compress the entire process to 3 days. After a moment of silence, the Tomb Lord replied. Okay, but you have to bring the coffin in. No accidents are allowed. If such a scourge escapes, it will become a great calamity for both of us. He originally thought that this would pose a problem for Han Dong, as no one in the entire corpse nation could move the coffin. Unexpectedly, a flash of starlight appeared. Han Dong touched the coffin lid with one hand and directly transported the coffin inside the veil. This ability caused the Tomb Lord's expression to change. You also used this ability to escape from the seal earlier. I've seen a few teleportation spells before, but none of them were as miraculous as yours. Who created this system? It was an existence that far surpassed you and me, an individual of a higher status. He exists in your world? Yes, and there are many others like him, called the Old King. If the Tomb Lord has the chance in the future, you can come and play. I will personally receive you. I didn't expect such a powerful world to exist. Compared to it, I'm insignificant. If I have the chance in the future, I will come. Alright, I'll try to peel off the eyeball. You also need to pay attention. If any spiritual substance leaks out, you must immediately restrain it. Alright. The Tomb Lord lightly placed his right hand full of silver needles on the coffin lid. He used this to control the death aura inside the coffin to search for Wu Bo Ruifei's true body. The entire process lasted for half an hour. Even the Tomb Lord had to expend a lot of stamina during the entire process before he came into contact with a vortex-like substance deep within his body. When he tried to use the arm made of death aura to forcefully pull the vortex out of Wu Bo Ruifei's body, the vortex automatically turned into an eyeball. In order to ensure that Wu Bo Ruifei wouldn't take the opportunity to escape, the Tomb Lord separated a portion of the corpse coffin and made an exquisite corpse box to store the eyeball. Before handing it over to Han Dong, he asked again, "Can you finish it in 3 days?" "Yes, but I'll have to continue using the Death Jade. I might need to use a portion of my forces. As long as it doesn't cause too much damage, you can use it however you want." "Thank you, Tomb Lord." When Han Dong received the corpse box, his eyes flickered with uncontrollable excitement. Because the death aura might be corroding the eyeball, he had to deal with it quickly. "Han Dong, I'll leave the matter of the chains to you. Leave it to me." He hurriedly said goodbye to the Tomb Lord and pretended to go to the chains, but in reality, the 3 days was a lie that Han Dong had given. According to his observations, pulling out the chains could be done at any time. As long as the conditions were right, it could be done in a day. Han Dong was a node holder, so it would be much easier for him to deal with matters related to the laws of the world. He followed the chains to the barracks again and went deep into the devil domain. He came to the depths of the Devil Cave where the frozen death bones had been captured. The cave was still covered in a thick layer of ice. There were no creatures disturbing it, so it was absolutely quiet, allowing Han Dong to fully focus on the eyeball. First, he drew a void imprint in the cave to ensure that Wubo Ruifei wouldn't be able to escape when he released the eyeball. Next, I'll clean the eyeball thoroughly. After confirming that it's safe, I'll bring it into the brain lab for analysis. When he carefully opened the corpse box, only a bit of death aura leaked out, and the devil eye didn't see any spiritual matter. This allowed Han Dong to let out a sigh of relief. When it was completely opened, a strange and perfect eyeball appeared in front of him. This is the certificate that Wubo Ruifei used to enter the Black Tower? An eyeball that didn't contain any nerves was placed in the corpse box. No matter from which angle one looked at the eyeball, one could always see a complete whirlpool pupil. The eyeball itself also had a repulsive force that ensured that the death aura wouldn't harm it. Of course, this was only before the energy was used up. This eyeball doesn't contain any spiritual matter. Once it's separated, it will become an independent entity and can survive for a long time. It should be something that Wubo Ruifei took from a special Black Tower controller or even a fugitive from the Black Tower and equipped it on himself. It's the same principle as when I equipped the clown's body. After confirming that the eyeball had nothing to do with Wubo Ruifei, Han Dong brought it back to the brain lab and used the scanner to analyze it. This time, the analysis lasted for a full hour. The final result stunned Han Dong for half a night. Chapter 1260. I won't be able to use this eye before I open the door. Forcefully combining it will not only damage the demonic eye, it might even damage the brain. Don't worry, I'll save this treasure for when I open the door. Who knows, it might be able to push me deeper into the realm behind the door. Really? I didn't expect to be able to completely remove the eye. Tomb Lord, you're really something, ha ha ha. Staring at the test report of the vortex eye, Han Dong could not suppress the excitement in his body and began to laugh maniacally in the laboratory. This lasted for half an hour. Even his eyes were bloodshot and his throat was slightly torn. Looking at his current experience in Tomb, Han Dong had gained a lot. 1. Using the zombie body that did not belong to him and the floating corpse internal sutra, which was one of the best in the zombie market, he completed the opening of a foreign realm in advance and gained an experience in opening the door that a normal life form could not obtain. 2. Because he cultivated the floating corpse internal sutra, he crossed paths with Scholar Du, which involved the floating corpse inheritance of the world's origin. 3. Using his relationship with the Tomb Lord, he obtained the Vortex Eye from an official employee. The above gains alone were no less than 100% completion of a certain destiny event. Not to mention, if everything went smoothly, Han Dong would obtain a portion of the shares. Next, I'll help the Tomb Lord deal with the chains of principles. I believe Togu is already very familiar with the structure of the chains. After a short rest in the cave, he was about to return to the barracks. A green demonic aura suddenly spread in the cave. Great demon? No, why do I feel that this aura is somewhat familiar? The structure of the blood dog appeared on his right arm. A large number of venomous snakes swarmed in from the entrance of the cave. However, the speed of the snakes was not fast. It did not seem like they were coming for Han Dong. The large number of venomous snakes was only used as a vehicle to carry a certain great demon into the cave. Immediately after, a familiar voice came from the snake swarm. Mr. Han, it's really you. A corpse covered in venomous snakes and holding a stone rod slowly appeared from the snake swarm. Zhang Shiliang, you've broken through? This was the local ruffian that Han Dong first met in the Corpse Kingdom. Who would have thought that this unintentional move would reach such a stage? I was brought back to the depths of the demon realm by those demons from the Broken Dragon Cliff. Because of the demon characteristics you gave me, I was recognized by an elder of the demon clan. According to the elder, zombies and demons had the same origin. It's rare to see a fusion like me. Combined with my own talent, I have a good future. Through the elder's careful guidance and the cultivation in the cave, I have already condensed an inner core. The inner core was dark green. It was different from the demon core, but it didn't look like a black core. I'm here to thank you for the opportunity you've given me along the way. You're the one who seized the opportunity. There's no need to thank me. You didn't come all the way here just to thank me, right? Yes, I've thought about it for a long time while I was cultivating. I've decided to give up my zombie identity and live in the demonic realm from now on. That's great. Not bad. Ah, okay. Zhang Xiaoyang was a little embarrassed. He thought that Han Dong would try to persuade him. At this moment, Han Dong suddenly placed a hand on his shoulder. By the way, since you've decided to give up your zombie identity, you must have gained a firm foothold in the demonic realm and even obtained a certain status and power, right? Yes. I'm already a recognized great demon. At the same time, I've also been appreciated by an elder. At present, I have my own territory in the Demon Valley. Han Dong showed a caring look like a leader. He patted Zhang Xiaoyang's shoulder gently. Not bad. If you use your biggest connection in the demonic realm, how many demons can you call? The biggest. If I ask the elder, maybe I can get help from the demonic realm. I'm not sure how much help there will be. Before you completely get rid of your zombie identity, can you do me a favor? I'll give you 2 days. It'd be better if you hurry. Within the time limit, take the demons to the barrack. I need to borrow the power of the demons. Give this letter to the elder you know. I believe he'll make the right decision. Han Dong wrote a letter on the spot with the pen and paper he carried with him. He also left a mark on the lower right corner of the letter with his own blood. What's the matter? It's about the separation of the corpse country from the current world. Once it succeeds, the corpse country and many floating islands floating in the sky will leave, and all the zombies will be separated. The death aura in the world will also dissipate, and everything will be rejuvenated. This letter clearly states the relevant content. Just give it to the elder. I believe he'll cooperate. You'll be in charge of this matter. Be sure to do it well. Definitely. Zhang Xiaoyang immediately merged himself with the snakes and quickly headed for the demonic realm. Han Dong stared at the snakes that were quickly disappearing and smiled. I didn't expect that the seed I accidentally sowed would really germinate. If I can get the help of the demon race, things should be much smoother. The rules of the world originate from everything. If I can really call the demon race, things may become smoother. Chain area, the trailer-like locksmiths continued their work as usual. Togu, on the other hand, was secretly admiring this painting of pain. He even somewhat desired to use some method to transfer the pain from these locksmiths to himself. It had already been a long time since he had tasted a novel and satisfying pain. Togu, what are you doing? How's the analysis of the structure of the chain? Master, I'm admiring the pain here. The analysis of the chain was completed 5 hours ago. I can cooperate with Master at any time. However, other than borrowing the power of your node, Master, we still need enough power to pull out the chain. The power needed here is to be able to lift the corpse country and the surrounding floating islands. The power provider must also be a living creature. It may require the sacrifice of tens of thousands of zombies. Yes, the power provider has been found, but we need to wait for a while. Let's sleep first. Tomorrow we'll start the cutting-off plan. Okay. The next day. Imperial Palace, Taiji Palace. Due to Shin Tu Yang's death due to dereliction of duty, Wang Xing, whose legs had recovered, sat back in the position of Minister of War. Currently, Wang Xing was kneeling in front of the curtain, receiving the commander's seal from the Tomb Lord. Minister Wang, I have something to ask you. I heard that when you were the governor of the barracks, you had a very good relationship with Han Dong. Your Majesty, it was this little friend's help that allowed me to recover my legs. I heard that he is now the special envoy appointed by Your Majesty? That's right. Han Dong has a great role in promoting the Corpse Country plan. Has he borrowed a large number of troops from you recently? No. I haven't seen this little friend for a long time. Didn't he go to the barracks yesterday? In the original plan, Han Dong needed to borrow a large number of people to carry out the plan of pulling out the chain. The Tomb Lord was mentally prepared to sacrifice a large number of zombies. At this moment, a tremor transmitted from the chain to the Corpse Country, and the whole country could feel the same degree of tremor. At the same time, a spy arrived at the door of Taiji Palace at the fastest speed and reported an extremely urgent situation. The sentry outside the barracks has discovered a large-scale demon wave. The degree of the demon wave is comparable to the turmoil of the demon territory during the founding of the country. I can feel the aura of at least 30 big demons. What? At this time? Wang Xing was shocked. His body couldn't help but run out of the palace. Chapter 1261. Rewind time to an hour ago. After a full day's rest, Han Dong had recovered to his peak state. Deep imitation, Togu Gonzalez, iron nails all over his body and the iconic monk's leather coat. Han Dong went to the cross nailed to the chain in the appearance of a Hell Venerable. With Togu's knowledge of chains and Han Dong's status as the node holder of Prometheus Buzz, when he stretched out his palm, it was no longer touching the surface of the cross. Instead, it passed through an invisible membrane and reached into the interior of the cross. During this time, layers of ripples spread out on the surface of the seemingly metallic cross. Immediately after, Han Dong walked into the center, which symbolized the center of the Tomb World's rules. The system notification sounded again. Warning! An individual with the potential purpose of threatening the world's source has been detected. Please evacuate the current area immediately. Your next action will violate the Black Tower's laws. A light penalty will be removal of your employee status, and a heavy penalty will be direct annihilation. Han Dong immediately responded with a reverse consciousness. Can you send the situation here back to the Black Tower? I'm afraid you can't do it. There's no need to scare people. Your connection with the Black Tower has been broken hundreds of years ago, right? The reason why he was so confident was because Han Dong had an executive above him, and this executive could reach the top of the Black Tower. His true avatar existed in the graveyard world, secretly observing everything. This was the reason why the Black Tower could not obtain any information related to Tomb World over the years. Warning, stop beeping. His brain was blocked and was no longer disturbed by the noisy notifications. Currently, Han Dong was in a pure white space. 10 meters away, there was a spherical luminous object floating in the air. This was the built-in system hub of the Tomb World. A series of system notifications and missions were issued by it. However, this sphere was in a disconnected state. Han Dong even suspected that the mission given by the sphere would not count when it was disconnected from the network. It would only count as a mission when it was reconnected to the Black Tower. After all, it was the Black Tower that evaluated individuals and provided reward. This spherical system hub was equivalent to a single AI server. Before it was connected to the company's mainframe, it could not do anything. However, the server itself had a relatively complete firewall. If one wanted to invade or destroy it, they would have to pay a certain price. However, Han Dong happened to have such a price node. A ball of light that symbolized the node of Prometheus slowly floated out of his brain and hovered above Han Dong's palm. Equal consumption. Using the power of the world contained in the node to consume the remaining power of the world in the center of the tomb. When the Tomb Lord's plan was put into effect and the aura of death spread throughout the world, The connection between the server and the Black Tower was cut off. In the single-player mode, the ball of light completely relied on the power of the world to maintain the stability of the world for hundreds of years. Whether it was using the chain of rules to restrict the floating continental plates, or countless locksmiths sacrificing their lives to resist the chains, the power of the world was consumed. According to the data given by the Ministry of Rights, the consumption had reached 82%. With the intervention of Han Dong, the node holder, the remaining 18% was quickly consumed. The originally sunny world dimmed in a short period of time. Thick clouds covered the sky. A large amount of lightning rolled between the clouds like huge cracks all over the sky. It even felt like the world was about to be torn apart. Remaining -5%, remaining -3%, remaining -1%, remaining -0%. The power of the world was exhausted. The server was down. The sphere, which was the built-in system hub, no longer emitted light and revealed its original appearance, a miniature Dyson sphere. Before Han Dong could observe it carefully, the white space had disintegrated and collapsed. Buzz. Han Dong was directly ejected out of the cross. Similarly, the cross in front of him, which was used to fix the chain of rules, was quickly disappearing like data disintegration. A sense of recoil, which symbolized breaking free, was transmitted along each chain. The corpse country and the surrounding floating islands could feel the tremor caused by the upward impact. However, the work was not over yet. The chain connecting the corpse country and the bottom of the floating island was a derivative of the rules. The server downtime only meant that the chain was no longer fixed. If he wanted to completely strip the corpse country and upgrade it, he had to pull out all the chains that symbolized the rules of the original world. This required brute force. The manpower seemed to have arrived. Han Dong borrowed the Shang Yu in advance and let the six-eyed assistant minister of the Ministry of Rights be his intelligence officer to observe the situation outside the barracks. At present, Assistant Minister Chang had just returned to the underground with a frightened expression. But when he saw the disappearing cross, his expression was a mixture of worry and joy. His expression was very strange. "Sir Envoy, you really did it. It's nothing to be surprised about. Didn't I say I could finish it in a day? By the way, didn't I ask you to observe the situation outside the barracks for me? Could it be that something happened? The demon tide is coming, and it's unprecedentedly huge. I'm afraid it's comparable to the turmoil in the demon territory during the founding of the country." Could it be that Sir Envoy had already expected this, and that the demon race would come to stop our plan at the critical moment? "No, they're not here to stop, but to help." What do you mean? It means that they're here to help complete the extraction plan. This can reduce the loss of zombies and ensure that the overall strength of the corpse country will not be affected before the upgrade. Moreover, the demon race also wants the Tomb Lord to leave with the entire corpse country. They're afraid of the Tomb Lord, so they don't even dare to cross the Broken Dragon Cliff. Once the Tomb Lord leaves, the world will belong to them. I just asked someone to send a letter in advance. This. Assistant Minister Chang, do you want to watch a good show? The next scene should be quite interesting. Follow me. Okay. Assistant Minister Chang immediately arranged for the Ministry of Rights' exclusive express train to quickly return to the land. The entire barracks was in a state of full alert. At the same time, a large number of zombies from the corpse country came to support. Wang Xing, who had returned to his position as a minister after meeting the emperor at the Taiji Palace, also hurriedly returned, ready to participate in the demon war. At this moment, Han Dong used the floating method of the floating corpse internal scripture to float about 100 meters above the barracks. Squeak, 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 tentacles grew out from the back of his head, and the tip derived a mouth structure. A total of 30 vocal organs were formed, and together with Han Dong, the sound instantly covered the entire barrack. At the same time, there was an irresistible whisper that invaded the head of every zombie. Everyone look at me. Han Dong raised the death jade in his hand and gave an order with the authority granted by the Tomb Lord. Everyone listen to my order. The cross that fixed the world chain has been removed. Now the chain needs to be pulled out. All the chains connecting the corpse country and the floating island need to be removed. The demon group that is rushing here is the foreign aid I found. You must change the barracks, alert mode to open mode in a short time and cooperate with the demons to pull out the chain. Today we will realize the great plan of hundreds of years. The Tomb Lord will lead us to a new world. Just when everyone was stunned by such an outrageous statement, a voice suddenly rang out. Wang Xing had already verified the situation with Assistant Minister Chang. An old but loud voice came out from Wang Shiheng's mouth. Everyone listen to my order. Remove your guard and cooperate with the demons to pull out the chain. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.